smoking weed. What if that happens?
They do.
Like Seth
They're gonna
Rogen.
get like a farm together for that, you know?
All right, we're live. Okay, welcome to another Unsourced World Radio. I'm Elvis. I'm joined by three fantastic guests. We're all huge Planet of the Apes fans, and I wanted to get something going because I love this series. I've seen these guys post like so much great things in the lead up to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and it made me really excited to get them on here. Because I think it's gonna be really fun just shooting a show with you guys. Okay, so if you can introduce yourselves, let's go in order of where the cameras are for TJ, and then going downward. Tell us first, your name, like a little bit about you, and what your kind of history of the Apes series is. When did you first go ape?
Okay, well, as Elvis said, I'm TJ. I'm a full-time writer and critic. I have a Substack newsletter, Omnivorous. I just sort of write about TV, movies, fantasy, sci-fi. Literally anything. Like there's not much that I won't write about. My Planet of the Apes history is a long one. I am now 40, and my first time I watched it was probably when I was like 12 or 13, somewhere thereabouts. My dad is a huge Planet of the Apes aficionado. Has watched the TV show, the live action, not the animated, but so I remember watching it in high school. Believe it or not, despite my public antipathy toward the Tim Burton version, I actually saw it in theaters in 2001 when it came out, and I didn't hate it at the time as much as I would subsequently. But my true excitement really came about with
Where did you go wrong?
Well, then I watched Rise, which I actually published a scholarly essay on because I was just so inspired and loved it so much. And I've seen every entry, and I was like, I had an early screening to see Kingdom, and so I was very excited to be immersed in this world again. I've been fixating on the box office and everything about it, so very excited to be here to chat with fellow ape fans, or what was the term, Elvis? Ape heads or
ape heads? Ape heads, yeah. Everything sounds there of heads in there,
Yeah, so I, as a devout ape head, I'm very much looking forward to talking about Kingdom and the franchise as a whole.
Hell yeah.
From Tom Pass.
Okay, I'm Doug, aka the Dugnaut, and I like to party. No, no, I'm just like freelance editor, aspiring screenwriter, guy who loves talking about movies. And the Apes movies have been, I mean, all the like media taste that I've inherited from my dad. After you get past like the Godfather movies and like other stuff of that ilk that he would always put on, like I feel like Planet of the Apes was right up. It was like Planet of the Apes and Jurassic Park would always be like the sci-fi movies that are like gonna like be on repeat constantly in the home. So like I've been exposed. Well, I would say Apes I have much closer affinity to as a franchise than Jurassic. Like Jurassic Park is like the one perfect movie, and then some bullshit after that. But I mean, I don't know, some stuff to say about the original sequel. But anyway, the Apes I love. I've always been down with Apes. I need to revisit the Burton one before I can give my definitive take on that. But like all the rest of them, even Battle, which like feels like really rough around the, I'm like, man, yeah, if only they could have infused a little more into that. Yeah, but they're still, I mean, they're grappling with such interesting, always like evergreen, compelling ideas that like I feel like, especially in I mean, the new movies get to some of this, but like rewatching the old ones like Conquest and Escape, I'm like, I don't know, some of this, especially the imagery in Conquest, is like it's unfortunately going to always be relevant. Like seeing that, like I don't know,
right,
like cops cracking down on apes and like police brutality, like that stuff's going to be resonant like forever.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, like and I will have some other say about Conquest. I have some mixed feelings about Conquest. Maybe some hot takes about Conquest, both theatrical and uncut. But yeah, no, definitely. And Tony, take it away.
Sure. Hello, my name's Rolo Tony. I like to talk shit about movies or on movies on Twitter. You can find me at, yeah, you do. But yeah, when it comes to what I like to do on Twitter and what I like to do with the space, at least, is I like looking for original stuff, and I like looking for things that do different twists on genres that we haven't seen before. And a lot of this comes from my love of Rod Serling. I talk a lot about Rod Serling often. And one of my early growing up, I used to get into the old Twilight Zone episodes through the DVD collections that they released. And through there, I started to collect all of the DVDs that were released for Serling projects, including like the Night Gallery or the revivals of the Twilight Zone series. But that led me to Planet of the Apes, and I watched through the whole Planet of the Apes series when I was really young. And then I kind of just left the original 70s ones, and they kind of escaped my mind. I came back to the Planet of the Apes franchise. Well, I guess I saw the Burton one when it came out because Paul Giamatti's in it, and I just saw Paul Giamatti. But when it comes to like the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the Matt Reeves and Rupert Wyatt trilogy, I just genuinely liked the vibe of them from when I saw the trailers, and I liked what they were doing. And when it comes to what those three movies were attempting at, they were less socially like conscious. They were less politically minded than the previous 70s ones were. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, nor do I think that they are devoid of those thematic depths. I just think that their focuses are different. Exactly. Yeah. It's just they're more focused on like the entertainment viscera, experience of watching the rise of a Planet of the Apes. Now, I'm interested for when we get into like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, because I feel like there's a lot of differentiations that happen there. But I was really a big fan of what Matt Reeves did with the tail end of that trilogy, and I'm excited to see how you guys felt this one transitions into something new.
Right, and no, your perfect point there, and I do appreciate what Kingdom does, and we'll get into like exactly how it's configured, compared to what Reeves and Rupert Wyatt did, especially when you have to set aside the original. Now, I came with Planet of the Apes. Obviously you have the Simpsons, thing. I saw it before. I saw the parody episode of Codename Kids Next Door as a kid, and like those are things that you just kind of have in the background. Pop culture ephemera, because Planet of the Apes is like just one of those things. It's just pure like American pop culture that's just always there. It's like something you can just pull from. Like so many things just sort of are riffs on it because it's so easy to do, and you have a lot of stuff like that. I think my first like real experience with Planet of the Apes was the Tim Burton version. I used to watch that so many times as a kid. And, the DVDs, VHS, I rented. I have a lot of fun with it. I really want to get into that because I do want to make a spirited defense of why it's amazing. But
I mean, the makeup looks incredible. I'm not going to talk shit on it visually. Like,
yes, but it's also a damn good movie. Okay, but but they released the Blu-rays of the original. I saw the original once before on like AMC or TCM. I forgot which. On like a marathon, I only saw the original. And I thought that was pretty good. Back in 2012, so that's like 12 years from ago now. I saw like the Legend Collection for like $12 on Best Buy. And I got it, watched all of them. Amazing films. I love all of them. I think all of them are great in some way. Either even if they're not the best kind of film, I think that they're great in terms of what they're saying, in terms of richness of subtext and theme. And I think that Battle might be my underdog favorite of these. I do think Battle, especially in context of the new films, it's the cornerstone of like the franchise right now. I think that
in what they set up in Kingdom, we can get more into that. But like, I feel like just watching Battle last night, I'm like, oh, they're doing some stuff here. Yeah.
But even back in the Matt Reeves, Rupert Wyatt Caesar trilogy, a lot of that stuff would be impossible without Battle. Battle makes that stuff capable of doing, because Battle sets up like thematically a lot of what the characters, we can pull and draw from the characters. I mean, like even in like the original like Conquest, we're going a little bit ahead of here, but if Conquest itself and the original plans of Conquest, if that was it, you don't really get Rise, you don't really get Dawn or War in the same way.
It would be different in however they choose to reboot it after that. Yeah.
I mean, because the Cobra Caesar like dynamic is a replay of Caesar Aldo.
Caesar Aldo, and like
exactly the same.
Exactly. I mean, if we don't go into like the original kind of Caesar like trilogy, Escape, and Conquest and Battle. Let's start from there, and we can talk about the original and Beneath if we want to. Because I think that stuff is like right now those are great, but they're not like relevant to what the series is doing right now, despite what people believe.
We'll see. We might go underground.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe in movie 7 or 6, but I'm not sure right now.
That's that would have been the one Marvel shit. Like,
I was worried.
If you see, like, and here's the Alpha Omega bomb.
Right. No. Okay. So just to head into it, the day I went to go see Kingdom, I saw it like 9 o'clock in the morning on the only IMAX screen here in New York. Okay, Manhattan. And the day I went there, I go on Twitter, and there's this guy. He's a mutual of mine. I can pull him up. He's like, man, when we saw Walton Goggins as Taylor, I was like shocked, and I'm like, oh my god, did he really? Because he was like saying like a bunch of spoilers throughout the day.
Kind of good.
Yeah, it does. It does. I'd watch it too. But so the entire last moments of Kingdom, where like you see that's a SATCOM thing, and then she goes to the military base, and then they put it in. You see the satellite site. She's like, wait, are they really doing the astronauts? Is that really happening? I'm like, because like that's the make or break for me. I don't want them to do the astronauts for at least 4 other films.
Well, in timeline-wise, they're unspecific. They just say many generations later after Caesar's death. But like, I had the feeling we're only jumping ahead, like at max, like a couple hundred years post.
I mean, they say 3 in the synopsis. They say 300 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're definitely. I mean, I know like timeline's always fluctuating with the timey-wimey shit we're dealing with, but like, it seems too early for Taylor to show up now.
Like, especially since, because the original makes such a point of emphasizing that it's
3955.
It's like it's 1,200 years or so.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's very clear that like enough time has passed that literally humanity's remnants are fossilized. Like, because Cornelius is excavated.
Archaeologists. Yeah.
And the only remnants of intelligent humans by that point are just like the underground, like any topside human by that point in like 3955 or whenever they are, like they're completely unintelligent and incapable of speech. Like,
although interestingly, one thing I did appreciate about Kingdom is that the doll that they uncover when they're in that seaside vault has is the sound effect of
the exact same sound effect
in the original, which I was like, that's a deep cut for the truly.
I like Easter eggs like that because it's like if you know what it is, you know it, but it's not gonna like just stop. The movie's not gonna stop for 5 minutes to point out like an Easter egg.
Right. And so so I was really glad that that ended up to be the case, because that's a make or break for me, because I feel like it's too soon, and then you have people I'm gonna go on some of these takes right here who are like, they don't know or care if the astronauts come back at all, because I've seen it like the last couple days since the movie came out that they think that humans have no place in the franchise anymore, that they should just not be any humans at all in the story. And I'm like, that is just so like, I'm not sure how you can come to that conclusion. I do like that, the apes are taking the forefront here.
Oh yeah, let's keep the ape POV, but like the human ape dynamic, I feel like is the whole, like the most interesting stuff in Kingdom to me is like the whole May / Nova Noah dynamic of like, is this still feasible? Like, can humans and
viable?
Apes, can something work with this?
Well, like if we even just go back, like the overarching arc in the original franchise, specifically from escape right up to battle, right? The whole plot line is literally apes coming back from the future to stop this, interspecies war, right? And it's a whole like decade spanning arc about whether or not true peace can be accomplished, right? And I think that some of the Planet of the Apes is definitely setting up that as its like 3-movie arc of what's it going to be? Is it going to be the humans or not? And there is
because they said this is like 4 of 9, right? Like this is a 9-movie plan.
Yeah, and 3 of them are going to be West Balls. So like I'm like, we'll get into like Kingdom proper in a brief moment, I'm sure. But when it comes to like the larger construction of what this is, to me, I view this as like the larger question of, will there be cohabitation between Planet of the Apes and humans? Is the title itself, Planet of the Apes, going to be kind of a lie like Battle of the Planet of the Apes was?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have a battle at the end.
They do. But the ending is kind of a thing, right? And like it.
Do you think so?
Well, yeah, because there is interpretation there, right?
Okay.
I think that Battle of the Planet of the Apes is a story where the humans and the apes end up eventually getting along, and I think that the statue crying is Caesar's own inability to kind of struggle, like to come to terms with that, because he, even at the end of Conquest, in the original ending, like the theatrical ending, I should say, and even where he is at the start of Battle of the Planet of the Apes and throughout the whole movie, he still doesn't trust humans ever.
No,
really,
he wants them around, but he doesn't trust. He's like, well, you can like teach us in our schools or something, but like, anytime
he's prejudiced guy.
Anytime McDonald brings up the whole equality thing, he kind of just like walks away. He's like, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, like in the future, if you gain our trust, he's like he treats humans as a novelty more than anything in the entire movie, and I like that a lot. Like McDonald is like saying like we're not thriving here. There's unrest going on. He's like, you know what? We're giving you enough. You should be happy with what you got. And that's
I feel like Kingdom takes the kernel of that idea, like the whole silo subplot, which I love that I knew. Even like I try and avoid trailers for things I know I'm gonna see anyway, but I couldn't help but see trailers for Kingdom before leading up to this. But I like that I kind of didn't know the structure of what the movie was. I knew there was gonna be some apes and there was going to be a human girl of some kind. I had when she finally talked, I was like, oh, of course that was going to, like, I felt dumb for not even considering that she was going to be intelligent. I was like, yeah, she's just a dumb, like, Nova parallel or something. But
it's weird that they did it twice. So are they going to have a real Nova when they get to that?
Well, I like the little, like, yeah, that's from Caesar just started the tradition of calling humans you're fond of Nova because he knew a girl named Nova that he liked.
He liked. he tolerated her. Let's be honest.
That's like there was like somebody originally named
like
Buddy.
a pet or something.
I think definitely the more with Nova.
But no, I definitely think so. But like, just to circle back to Battle, the thing I don't actually, we talk about interpretation of here, is the one thing about Battle what I really like is I take the view that it is a not circular time loop, but it's more like Terminator where like things change, but you can't change what's set in stone. And so to me, like the statue of Caesar crying, right, is that's tragic. That's tragic to me. Because and it's funny thing, I didn't notice until recently. So the original plan for Battle, and this is why I like Battle as it is. Like, I know that we can say like we wanted a battle. I've seen this people who want a battle that follows off from the original ending of Conquest, which I'm not sure I would have wanted, because I do prefer and I do think that Conquest should only be seen in the uncut version. But without the changed version of Conquest's ending, you don't get the softer sort of Caesar that then has to endure all of this loss.
This dynamic in Battle is more, because if you just go from, even though, I'm probably only ever going to rewatch the uncut Conquest, but like if you do the sequel, if you do the version of Battle that's a sequel to that, then what does that look like? Our humanity will already be like enslaved. Right?
Yes, no, because if you look at the documentaries and interviews, the original plan for Battle is not too dissimilar, but basically Caesar is an outright villain in the original script that was written for Battle before it got rewritten. So some of the same beats happen. You have like the mutant cult sort of brewing up again. You have his friction with Aldo, but he's a villain. Like Caesar is just like a kind of he's like a dictator. He's abusive to apes and humans alike. He is just like just a complete dickhead, and he like his fall from grace is not really so much a fall or anything like that. I don't really like that much, because I think it's less interesting than what we do get in Battle. I think that Caesar trying to be like an idealist, trying to hold us together, and he's kind of like not really capable of doing it, is a lot more entertaining and a lot more somewhat thought-provoking.
Caesar's arc in Battle, almost, now that I'm thinking about it, not to start a whole Game of Thrones thing, but he kind of reminds me of King Viserys in House of Dragon. Of like, he's kind of like,
yes, exactly.
He doesn't want to. He's like, okay, well, everyone around me is telling me war is inevitable, but I don't know. But he can't like really like decide fully one way or another, which then leads to like all these cracks in like leadership.
I got the same idea from Kingdom, where like King Viserys in House of Dragons, he dies like, oh yeah, no, everyone's having fun. He dies not knowing that his death is like
propelling it to war. Yeah,
exactly. Again,
I mean, because almost the story arc in almost all of the Planet of the Apes series is about disenchantment, like, and the
exactly
of particularly the 60s and 70s, which is very much a disillusioned age. Like every character sort of has to grapple with their way of thinking of their. I mean, Taylor's sort of cynical to start with, but he becomes like kind of devastated by the end of the movie.
Exactly.
Well, especially
Like-
by Beneath, when it's just like full nihilism.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think in that way, like the third movie is the most devastating because Cornelius and Zira's whole story begins as sort of like this cute sitcom-y, you know, with
like
human clothing, and then by the end they're both dead.
With child murder. By the
You know, and Zira's like
he shoots that poor chimp like 5 times.
he had to make sure. I mean, it was important. He can't let him survive.
But no, I agree. And so like when I was saying, it's like when they rewrote Battle, they did throw the baby out the bathwater, because even the uncut version of Battle, which is still like the sort of like you could say like the corrupted version of the original themes, they still cut out the mutant stuff. And if you put the mutant stuff back in, you do get a little bit more of that tone of like this thing is just kind of circling again and again. You know, you have that point where like Caesar like goes to the mutant city and he brings weapons, and this is a good excuse for that for Culp, the mutated Culp, to like retaliate, and then that's a good excuse for all of them to retaliate, and then just kind of just keeps on building up and up. And then you take that out of like the theatrical cut of Battle, like what are we doing here? And you see like the reviews at the time saying that Battle was like just an extended, you know, live action cartoon, and like yeah, you can understand it because without that kind of stuff, like of course it's not like as depthy as like something like Escape or Conquest. It's still something, and like without it, I'm not sure like that mutant stuff is really what makes, you know, Battle tick, you know, because it shows like you have these two opposing forces. You see Mendez the first, and you see like just like the Caesar trilogy, right?
Yeah.
The reboot Caesar trilogy, like they're trying to understand each other, but it's just not working.
Well, yeah, that whole trilogy and now Kingdom feels like an extrapolation of these ideas from like the end of the 70s movies. And I do really like that moment in Battle where after Caesar gets back from the mutant city, is his wife's name Lisa? Right?
Lisa.
Yeah.
Lisa, yeah.
When she's like, well, when he's like, yeah, they're coming to these humans are gonna be a problem, and she's like, well, how do you know? Like, did you talk to them? Like, well, they shot at us. And he's like, well, you were trespassing? You know, like, did you like identify yourself or like communicate? Like, you're like, obviously she wasn't there and didn't see the exact scenario, but it's like, yes, this is like the failure along communication lines breaks down and just leads to conflict, and this is just like a recurring cycle.
Yeah, and so like I do. Go ahead.
I think one of the most fascinating things about Planet of the Apes as a franchise, and I think it's really highlighted in Kingdom, is like the absolute impossibility of two sentient species sharing a planet. Because if you think about it, like humanity's entire sense of itself as a species is founded on like we're the only species with like sentient
language,
right?
Like, with language. And like, you know, I mean, there's some debate about, you know, some of the great apes can pass the mirror test, but like it's really humanity that has leveraged its own consciousness to build a world. And I mean, it's for that reason that May feels so vengeful, because, you know, I'm really struck by her last line where or one of the last lines, she's like, it wasn't built for apes. Like, she's so adamant about that point. Like, she's like,
yeah. And Noah's whole response is like, well, what is for apes then? You know, like he can't.
That's just like dagger.
Who decides who gets what? How do we break this apart? You know, like.
Yeah. But yeah, Tony, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to reference the transition in tones between Conquest and Battle, because like just from like outside of the thematic text, right? Because obviously we can talk about why they did it from like a creative standpoint, but in reality, the reason that they made that pivot was because they had written themselves into a corner with the ending of Conquest as it was originally written. But then there was also the second factor, which was that the movies were losing money, and they were trying to make sure that they could invite more people in, right? So that's why there was that more kid-friendly feel to it, right? And I'm not saying this to devalue Battle, because I actually think that softer touch actually helps a lot, because I think that these kinds of stories, they're not like Planet of the Apes, right? We're seeing people in monkey makeup, right? Kids are going to watch something like that, right? Yeah. Even if it's too old for them, right? At the same time, you need to kind of have different speeds, right? And I think that Battle does a really good job at carrying all of those different weighty subjects without ever sacrificing the grit. When it comes to how this meets in relation to Kingdom, I think that Kingdom is a course correction that's very similar to Battle, also in the sense that it's kind of for kids. Like, I kind of get the impression from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes that this is like the start of a young adult novel series, right? Like the first, like we can get into it when we start getting into Kingdom more proper, but I feel like that first chunk right, is like the first novel in a Hunger Games series, and then the
Yeah.
rest of it becomes a Planet of the Apes story. And I'm not
I
saying that's a
agree.
bad thing.
Yeah, I agree because May, and again, I'm gonna repeat this probably, is a direct lift of one of the characters from Westfall's Maze Runner trilogy. Like
Okay,
directly.
I
Boom.
haven't seen the Maze Runners. Are those like kind of similar in tone to Kingdom?
A little
They-
bit, a
yeah.
little bit. But like that character, May, is like he must have really liked that character from the Maze Runner trilogy because it's the same exact character, same exact motivations, and like characterization. It's insane. Like Westfall just copied his own homework here. But I do want to
You're
circle
allowed to
back to
copy
battle.
from yourself, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Because Maze Runner movies are really good. But saying about this, right? The image of Caesar crying. Okay, I do love it a lot because that's like the only direct thing left over from like the original script for Battle. And
Okay.
like, yeah, so like that. So as I mentioned, Battle was meant to be more darker, a little more cynical. Caesar was meant to be like a dictator, and he would be like apparently like the last kind of act of that script, was going to be like him realizing he's gone too far, and he's trying to
Right.
change, and then he gets assassinated by Aldo for getting too
Okay.
soft. It's like basically like Aldo, what Koba did in Dawn, basically like that. That's again. I mean,
yeah, we
I mean
see these conflicts like repeat themselves, and visually, it's just a nice echo of. Is that beneath where we see the lawgiver statue like crying blood?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love these parallels, but that's what I mean is I take this as tragic. That's why I'm like, I know people saying like he's crying like in either joy or like pensiveness or relief. I think it's tragic because like that guy did not want the series to end. Paul Dean did not want the series to end on a happy note. And the fact the rewriters wanted to remove this scene, they wanted it to end on like the little like shove of the little ape child and the little girl too. They wanted to end it there. They did not like the idea of the statue crying, but I think the statue crying is such like a poignant moment. It kind of it's like a nice, maybe a little silly, but also like just a
I
very
think it's a powerful
sort of
visual,
visceral like encapsulation of the religious themes as well. Like crying Virgin Mary, bleeding Virgin Mary, stigmata, that kind of thing. And it's like I think that this is like the most striking image of the entire franchise because if you think about like the remake series, it is this image. It is like the dissolution of Caesar's dream. And if you guys want to talk specifics about escape or conquest right now, we can do so in Battle as well. But I do want to talk about Kingdom a little bit because I think that this is the Rosetta Stone for Kingdom.
Well, and Kingdom builds off the idea of not only that this is.
I think my mic is dead.
Oh, I can hear you.
No, we
can hear me. Thumbs up. You can hear me.
Yeah, I can thumbs up.
Okay, I'm gonna get another headset.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. You were saying something?
What was I about to say? The Kingdom is, it's kind of an extrapolation of this notion of Caesar's vision, but then I like how we're seeing because he already was like a religious messianic figure, so we're like going into the idea of like these different interpretations of Caesar. I mean, we're 100 years removed, so there would be different. I mean, they don't seem to have written history. It's all oral, it seems like at this point. They're kind of just passing things along orally, which would even cause things to further diverge as you basically playing a game of telephone of like passing along what Caesar's message actually is.
Right.
Oh, go ahead.
No.
It's implied that even Raka can't read the
right.
Right, he just says the symbol he knows they have meaning, but he can't just pick up a book and
decipher it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's keeping them because he knows it's like important and like he wants to understand it. But
and it's just textbooks, which is like the most tragic part because even if it did, like they had no relevance right now.
Right, because they're not connected to anything else.
Yeah. But no. So what was the role of Tony? You go first.
I was just going to say something that I like about the old franchise and something that I hope that they actually kind of get back to soon is I feel like they do a really good job of evoking like the unrest that was happening at the time those films were coming out, right? I feel as though that was something that was kind of in the spirit of Serling, right? Even with the ending of that, like obviously Serling's script was not like really a Bible on the set of Planet of the Apes. Apparently there was many rewrites on
but that ending is straight up Serling. Yes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And the whole idea of him saying you actually did it, you blew it up. I mean, the anxiety of the bomb, the capital T, capital B was so ever present of like, no, actual nuclear annihilation you could wake up to tomorrow, you know.
And like the last thing of that movie is like just ambient silence. Like it's just like it knows what it's saying, and there's no like the Jerry Goldsmith snore doesn't come roaring back in. It just lets like the birds chirp a little bit and then roll credits. You're like you're left.
Is boring. That's the only thing. And I mean, I wrote an entire dissertation about atomic anxiety. So like it was literally everywhere from 43, 44, right up to like the 80s. So like
right through the whole Cold War, basically.
It's like because there's the very real possibility. I mean, it's kind of like in much the same way that the new ones kind of conceptualize the fundamental philosophical question of can two sentient species share the planet. The old ones are like atomic. There's a nuclear holocaust could literally happen at any minute. So it's always kind of the
and is that inevitable with human nature? Kind of
exactly.
Like, are we just destined to destroy ourselves?
Because Planet of the Apes, among many other philosophical concerns, is really much obsessed with time and temporality and like how do we sort of forge a future when we don't know that a future is even possible?
Exactly.
Really, like germane.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, which in the new trilogy seems particularly like looking at the new trilogy post-COVID gives that whole question a power it did not have in 2011.
It definitely does.
Just rewatching that opening to Dawn, where you're seeing like the talking about the spreading of the virus, like, oh wow, this hits different.
Or like that's in the gas station. You're like you want to join in on that relief. You want to, they believe they're past the hump, that they're over the big milestone there, and you just that makes it more
Caesar got to hear
powerful.
The band.
Exactly. Like, I think that's his theme song. Like I was thinking of that, like when war ended, like he's dying out, he's bleeding out, like it's that first verse is back in my head. He wants to lay his head, man. He's made it. Right,
there was one scene in Beneath, really early on in the movie, and it was something that I haven't like seen much throughout the rest of the series. But you actually see apes protesting the concept of going to war, right? And that was the thing that like really hit me, right? And that's something that existed throughout the series as well, right? Obviously, the series went on to be about many things. It was about nuclear holocaust. It was about Vietnam War, civil rights. They had all of those things were in the original Planet of the Apes movies, and I feel like there is this constant like, can we get it right? Right? Can we? Oh, there it is. Exactly. Yeah. Can we fix the mistakes of the past? Right. And what's interesting when we see these actions that repeat and repeat over and over again, not just in like these movies, like the old ones, but as we see them in the future, but how like essentially they become deified, right? And if we relate that to, let's say, like human history, right? Like Jesus may or may not have been a real person, right? And then who knows how that has been extracted from there, right? And that's the history of humanity from there on, right? A great person exists and does one thing, and then thousands and thousands of years later, something can become like gleaned from that or changed from that, or they evolve, right?
People interpret it in different ways, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that's kind of like the secret sauce in the Planet of the Apes franchise. I think that when they can really like subtly show those things, right? They, like the scene where in Kingdom when they actually look through the children's book. Some people may think that's kind of corny, but I actually think that's a really clever movie.
It's existentially horrifying.
Especially you see in their faces the reaction to just see, because they can't read the words, but they see the image of an ape, of a monkey in captivity, and it's like
in bars.
Yeah. It's like,
this is after Proxima says like, they kept us in cages. We were prisoners. This is like everything that they thought maybe in the back of their heads like come to fruition. And we were talking about deep cuts earlier. This is like a direct lift from the finale of the cartoon, okay? Because the cartoon, I've seen like a couple episodes, seen like first couple episodes, seen the last couple episodes. It is dry as hell. It's not a fun cartoon. It is like very dry. I would still own it if they released it on Blu-ray. They have never done so, and I just want Blu-ray collections. So, but yeah, in the last episode of the cartoon, the human characters, they go in search of a book that they think might be able to turn the tides in ape-human relations, and it is a book called A Day at the Zoo. And it ends with them like retrieving the book from like a sacred ape temple and then going back to Ape City. And that's where the cartoon ends. We don't know what happens, but I would imagine something similar to Kingdom happens. They probably get like strung up or something. Like A Day at the Zoo would not go over well, and like it does with Noah and the gang. Okay,
right.
That's like a sick joke.
And that's why, because Eagle Clan, as opposed to say Proximus, who we know has like an understanding of history, like of deep history, because he has Trevathan to sort of help inculcate. And
is that name a because there's so many like allusions to like mythology or other cult? Is Trevathan, is that from something? Name?
It sounds more like Trevelyan, but I
right.
don't specific, like I don't know that it has any particular value.
Well, my guess, my theory is that it's just Trevor and Jonathan mashed together because they ran out of ways to name people in the last 300 years. like oh, that's Trevathan. Okay, good.
I mean, if you're a human who can still talk at that point, you can call yourself
whatever you want.
You can argue about it.
But the Eagle Clan is like so isolated from everything that the only world they've known is an ape-centric world. Like
exactly.
To them, humans are just echoes. They're not even that common. Like they're just like an occasional occurrence. Whereas Proximus has a much deeper and therefore more like problematic understanding of history because he knows like the truth. And so it's really an interesting play of like what's getting preserved and what is not.
Right.
Yeah. And there's that whole scene where Noah's talking to his mom and is like, the elders didn't know everything because they didn't want to, there's like, we were intentionally keeping ourselves ignorant of like, let's just like, we have our little village, we have our eagles, let's just stay here and do.
And I don't think it's an accident that his name is Noah. Like we talked earlier about the symbolism of Caesar being a Christ Moses figure. I don't.
Yeah, sure. And we have flood at the end.
Yes,
like,
but like
flood.
But like
covenant. Like it's the ending is the new covenant with the apes. Like we don't know what just yet, but like it's the post deluge disillusionment. Like the old world is gone, and now we have to sort of face the uncertainty of a future in which it's far more complicated than we thought it was.
Right, and so like I think that unless let's head into Kingdom properly at this point, unless there's any kind of nagging things you guys want to.
Well, just real why we have the protest image, it just made me think of it's interesting that in Conquest when you see human protesters, but they're not like protesting ape slavery, they're protesting that they're out of the job because like they're like waiters that have been replaced by the ape slave labor. And I've always thought that was an interesting touch of like, yeah, like they don't actually the morality of it isn't what is bothering these people, it's just people out of work. And it's like that something about that just felt very real.
I know
it felt like AI because that's what
right, exactly,
like AI and shit.
So let's talk about Kingdom, and let's go beat by beat just for clarity's sake, and then we can just shoot the shit beat by beat, whatever. That's how it usually goes. I did like Bethune. We were just going off on different tangents, but let's just try to go story wise. We start off with Caesar's burial. Not burial, his Viking funeral.
I had no clue that this was gonna happen. And
me neither.
I was just in a more emotional state.
I started tearing up.
Just seeing the text before we fade into the funeral. I was like, oh, Caesar, I care.
I knew so much. I had just watched War.
I know.
Yeah.
And and I feel like this is the best way to start this movie because the movie itself is like an extended epilogue to the original Caesar's trilogy, right? I think that people are saying like, oh, it's a part one. It feels like part one. I can see that kind of.
They are setting up stuff, but there is a story here of like what happens in the wake of Caesar.
Exactly.
Yeah, I find that whole line of argument just nonsense because
I understand parts of it, but I think that right now at this thing, it does work as a good counterbalance.
This feels. I felt like Rise felt more overtly setting up than
yes.
Like King. This tells a more satisfying, contained story. Like I could just rewatch this and get more. Not that I still enjoy Rise, but like it's harder to not think of like the tapestry of like, okay, this is what it's setting up for the whole trilogy.
Right. Go TJ before anyone cuts you off again.
It just feels to me like disingenuous to be like, well, this movie that has already been marketed and very explicit about what it's doing is doing what it's doing, and we're gonna fault it for that. Like that just feels like
a little bit,
disingenuous way of engaging with a movie. I'm like, yes, it's the first act. It's like a 3-act play. That would be like watching the first act of a play and being like, well, that was very much a first act.
Oh, they're introducing us to the characters in conflict. How typical.
Which is very funny about giving Planet of the Apes. The original series is like a soap opera. Every even the documentaries, interviews. If you look at the Blu-ray, if you get the Blu-ray, they're like in this episode, in previous episodes, they talk it like it's like a TV show. the writers and the actors are like, because it is like it's a continuous
very
story,
episodic, and similar to like how TV shows are written. Sometimes you just write yourself into a corner. You don't know if you're going to get renewed, and then you get picked up for another movie. You got to like, oh fuck, how do we come up with a sequel?
And so I do think it's great that they did that. Again, I wasn't expecting either, and I was tearing up because like this is and going into it, I knew like that this is not something that's going to you know about Proximus and they're twisting his words. You see the trailers, all that kind of stuff. You know what's going to happen. So this is like the last time where ape kind is like actually united, and it's at his death, and that made me tear up because I'm thinking like this is it. Like this not only is Caesar's death, but to anyone all around him who's like all united, like apes together strong, all that stuff, right? This is the death of like that purpose. And I start tearing because I thought thinking in my head immediately, like
going back to that statue with the tear, that's this movie,
Exactly. It is like and so I thought that from the jump. I got that thought in my head immediately. Like it's not just Caesar's like physical death, but this is the death of his dream, his personal dream. Because none of these apes give a shit. Maurice didn't really care. Rocket didn't really care. Caesar was the glue holding the idea of sustained peace together. And so that's that. And so that in the first minute in my head, I'm like, that's it. That's it. That's the core. I start up like I got that impression immediately. And so the rest of the movie is like this slow decay. But any other impressions of that opening?
Yeah.
Okay, so we skip ahead many generations later, and promo tiers say 300. It could be 1,000. Who cares? It's stick with 300.
300 makes more sense than I thought. Like, I mean, I don't know where they're going in the 9 movie plan, but my dream is that like. Yeah, I love all that we can show with the Mo capture performance of like this stage of the ape evolution, but I kind of want to build back to a point where we're using maybe like a blend of like
yes, me too.
Let's kind of have them have makeup on when they get more evolved.
I do like that we do see a little bit more humanistic, more reactionary faces on these apes in this one. You are seeing a slow evolution there, but. I do like how, like in the original movies, right? When you find out that it's Earth, right? You're like, oh, that's why apes are like that because they evolved over 1,000 years. And then you get to like escape and conquest. Like, oh no, apes just always look like that. They just always look like they just always look like guys in suits. And so, like, I do like that this has the opportunity if we do get that entire ape history to actually show these changes. I think that'd be a really cool thing to do. And you can see from the marketing, they can do really good looking suits. Let's be honest. Just touch those up in the CGI CGI department.
Where was that beach they were on?
They were like on all coasts, basically.
From a simple ecological point, biological point of view, I did a little research. Chimps average about 30 years. So, you're talking like significantly more generations than you would a human. Like,
wow.
At this point, you're having like it's the same thing with orangs and gorillas, all of which have
and then are their lifespans maybe a little more because of like
that's true. We don't actually know the full extent of the virus, how it changed their biology. So there's all kinds of
it gives them a lot of wiggle room in terms of like being able to define.
It makes more sense that things have changed even more so societally speaking.
I mean, they're taming eagles. That's pretty advanced. Like they weren't doing that before.
But yeah, no, here's the suits. They look really good. They really do.
I still think they should have got real chimpanzees for this.
I mean, yeah, maybe once or twice, but then otherwise, it's fine. But yeah, Eagle clan. Sorry, I don't know why that happened. We see 3 apes, and I had to admit, I didn't know who was talking originally. I didn't. I didn't know Naya. I think her name is Noah's girlfriend. I thought, where's that voice coming from? Because it took me a while to really get into the idea that we're seeing the apes speak.
Because it's mostly sign language in the Caesar trilogy. Like Caesar would occasionally say like one word, like he's mostly the only one.
The war. They're not your friends. That kind of thing. And I found it awkward that they still kind of do that too. I think that guy Noah's actor was trying a little too hard. Let's be honest. I was gonna say Maurice.
I thought he did a good job.
He did a good.
He's a great protagonist. Like
he's a good, but like I think he should be speaking a little bit better than he does. Like even Naya. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the problem with him is that he whispers too much.
Yes.
Like he's not
Sure.
somebody who like, and I get it because we're watching like the rise of a new protagonist, right? And I'm
Mhm.
sure he'll find his voice as the series goes along.
Yeah,
But
he's not
like
starting off
everything's-
ready to make speeches, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, of course he needs to build up to it, but just every scene, like it's like life or death, and he's like, I don't think this is the right move, and I'm like, you know, let's bring some
I
urgency
love
to it a
that
bit.
though. I don't know. I think
This is why I think that taking account, like to me, this is like A New Hope, like or the
Yeah.
Fellowship of the Ring.
Sure.
Like it is a traditional epic narrative, and it's which is very different. We haven't seen that quite in this explicit form in the Apes series before. Like this is very
that's
much
true. Yeah.
Like,
We haven't seen this like straight-faced, like someone tried to do this in a long time. Like most of our movies now have like an irony streak to it, right?
Yes.
Like even if there is a prophecy or chosen one thing, there's gonna be like a few layers. Like Dune, for example. I mean, a lot of that's textual too. But it's like yes, that this is like a cynical take on that of like this is all manipulate. This is just earnest. Like this is like he goes on a quest. Like
like faces like narrative, like that's, and I, as someone who loves the epic as a form, like I was like, yes, I will gladly spend 2.5 hours.
I mean, it made me more excited for Wes Ball's Legend of Zelda because I was like, oh, this is kind of the start of like a Zelda game.
If these were human beings and they're like you have Proximus in like in a castle or like a war keep or something, it's the exact same movie. It's like it's that kind of old fashioned like adventure narrative.
Kevin Durant, Ganon,
or like you know Willow or something like that. It's very willowy, and so like yeah, the sage like, oh, this is the old knowledge in these books that we have to translate to have knowledge in them, the symbols, all that kind of stuff. It's a fantasy movie, it really is, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But I do think that my favorite parts of the movie are not just the end, like the last act, but the first act at the village, the Eagle Clan village. I think is really great. I love that world building. I love seeing like a ape society, which we really haven't seen before. Like I wish we spent more time in Dawn in like how Caesar's village was. I think that was a little bit maybe underused in that film.
I mean, that's almost like every ape movie. Once we get any glimpse of them in a city or society, I'm like, I want to just dig into like one aspect of the society. Like in Battle when they're showing the schools in the beginning, I'm like, I could watch a whole movie about the ape education system. I'm ready. Like let's dig in.
Yes, exactly. Like, where they getting that paper? You know. But no. I love that in the original as well. We see like a museum. We see a funeral home. We see like courts. We see like
bathhouse,
zoos, bathhouse. We see them at sauna. It's great. It's great stuff. So I really love seeing that with Eagle Clan. I love seeing like just how their society functions. It's very Eden-like. It very much feels like the beginning of Battle. Right, where like if Caesar's living in an idyllic, like paradisical kind of society, or at least to him, or like everyone gets along,
right.
he has chats, everyone's pitching in, that kind of thing. I really like that about you. Yeah. And I thought it was really interesting that it's Neil Klein. I was wondering like, okay, so where is the wrinkle here? Because I hadn't seen interviews. I had no idea that they had kind of already said that Noah the Neil Clan wouldn't really know about Caesar. I had no idea that was the case yet. So I'm like, where is the wrinkle here? Because and so later on, I'm like, okay, it's really interesting that they seem to have just come up with this kind of society on their own. Like at some point, they started, being able to, tame eagles, and they build this. It is aviary. They have knowledge of like their own hawk gloves that they wear all the times. And so they have their own sort of symbiotic relationship with the eagles as well. Like always leave one. They have to breed,
right?
And
yeah, because like based on the marketing, I kind of went in like, they're already gonna start living under Proximus, like because like Proximus was all over all the trailers and stuff. So I was like, that we're gonna start there. But I love the like sort of like, this is its own society we're starting in, and the build up to when he finally gets to Proximus makes it that much more rewarding.
And I think it's ironic that this village is probably like the kind of a society that Caesar would have wanted to build, and yet he had almost nothing to do with it.
Right. They don't know who that is.
So like that's one of the things that struck me as well in hindsight. Like Caesar's death, like it opened up so many opportunities, but at that end of the day, like what seemed like important might not really have been. Like they could have been a bunch of bad apes. They could just been like an indigenous ape society from zoos or anything like that. They might not know Caesar because they never even had anything to do with Caesar's group. I know people are saying like, oh, Noah might be like a descendant of Caesar. It's more interesting if he's not.
Right. I think so. Yeah. And just in general, like I'm tired of sci-fi, even with new movies. Like I don't need everyone to be related. Like this could just be his own story.
Yeah, because what's striking is that it's a remarkably homogenous society. Like there are no orangutans. Like he doesn't see another species of ape until he sees Raka, and there's only one gorilla. So presumably there are like orangs and gorillas elsewhere. Like I mean, I assume that there have to be in order for the later series to make sense. Like it can't.
Right, but Noah doesn't know anything about that. Like he's only lived with chimps.
Exactly. Yeah. So like because there's that one brief snippet of conversation with Raka where Raka has presumably been describing for Noah the species of ape, which he's like, we come in at the end where he says, then there's the gibbons, and then he goes off on this tangent about like prehensile toes. So presumably, even though we don't know, he's probably outlining the other species of ape for Noah, who clearly has never been out of the valley, therefore has never experienced other species.
Right.
So it's really fascinating, sort of like very, very small tangent about what ape kind means, because like as far as Noah's worldview is concerned, it's all chimp related. But
right.
So is there unity, and is it necessary? Like again, because Caesar wanted everyone to stick together, but like at that point again, it's like it's the chipping away at that. Like all like Caesar's ideals, like from the get-go, like were they important enough?
Right.
To like actually sustain the ages, and it's like you just get that feeling that no, they weren't, and it's like it's imbued in every scene of the movie.
Right. And like TJ said, that it's like the idea pervades all these movies. Can two sentient species coexist? But this is even furthering of like, well, we see it in multiple of the apes. Can two sentient group like within apes? Can two sentient groups even like coexist? Like once you have sentience, then you're going to have differing viewpoints and differing opinions about what is to be done, and that creates conflict.
Which presumably, I would assume that it's maybe in the final trilogy we're going to see like how we get to the point where like gorillas are the military and chimps
become scientists.
Which interestingly is absolutely the opposite of nature, because like chimps are actually the most aggressive of all the
which is what Burden got right. Okay. All hail Fade. Okay.
That's
all hail Fade.
Circle.
Yeah. Okay. So next up we have, of course, they notice May in the forest. She's been following them for some reason. She steals a blanket. I think she's trying to steal a horse and just gets away with the blanket. And this leads them to inform the city elders, along with Noah's father, who is the bird keeper, which I think is kind of a vague importance. Like, I don't think they call him an elder per se.
But he seems to have direct access to the elders. Like, if he's not part of it, he's like right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I think he may be a religious leader of some kind. He seems to be, because they do seem to have like a religion centered around like communing or bonding with the eagles, so maybe like a priest or something in their society, and they send out a heavy hitter, one of their fixers. I think his name was Oda or something like that.
Yeah.
Oka, to just kind of scare away any groups of echoes or humans that might be around.
I thought that was them. Humans are just echoes. Like
I love that name.
I love that. And then when he meets Raka later, and Raka is showing the mural, he's like human, and he's like echo. Like he's never even heard that word. Human.
Yeah, exactly. And like is it echo because maybe like mimicry? Like at some point like where they like. Is that where they came from, or is like did at some point an ape have the cognizance to realize that humans are no longer humans, and so call them echoes?
Well, and there's the idea going back to the original movies when Zero and Cornelius are studying these captive humans. They're like, well, obviously these are descended from us. Like they kind of have the evolutionary track back reversed of like the obviously we're the pinnacle of like what this evolutionary thing has been leading to, and like these are the more a primitive version, and then so like is Echo almost feels like another iteration of that idea of like to most apes who don't know the full history, they're gonna just assume like, yeah, that these were just like some lesser version before they got to like us. Obviously, like where evolution's headed.
Yeah, exactly. We're made in God's image, as Isaiah says.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, so he and at a certain point, I don't know why May is doing this at this point. Like, I guess because she knows there's a village there. Maybe she tries to steal food. Yeah, she tries to steal
hungry.
fish. Yeah, she tries to steal some fish that they have. And Noah gives chase and accidentally, kills his baby eagle chick, which I thought was really sad.
I know,
like he sees the yolk and like he just got it. Like it's just like, damn, man. Like again, humans cause destruction to nature. Okay, that's a big theme, and that's even there. That's a theme. And he realizes that he's only got one thing to do. It's his coming of age. He doesn't want to be beheaded. His girlfriend, his best friend, they're gonna be like adults. He doesn't want to be a kid anymore. It's very.
They're going to different colleges. He won't even be able to go to this. He's not graduating.
He's not graduating. Yeah, it's a very 80s coming of age story.
I can see that his girlfriend Suna is like, I will wait with you, like, or I'll let you bond with my eagle too. Like, I love Anaya and Suna. Like, I think they are fantastic secondary characters, and they made me love this ape trio so much.
They're so kids. There's so much kids. They're like that Goonies almost kind of kids.
Right, like when Anaya at first refuses to go with him to scale, and he says
that moment, it was incredible when he's like, Anaya's scared, but then he shows back up.
Which is fantastic, because in the earlier part he says, Anaya is not scared, and it's a beautiful pairing that I think.
For me, I'm not quite sure if you guys got it. It added a little bit of tension because I'm wondering, like, is he there as like a mole? Because
you kind of don't, because it's kind of unclear how long they've been there until Noah catches up, but it's been enough where you could conceivably be like, yeah, he's maybe been indoctrinated, or
when he shows up, he's like the person serving the court, serving Proximus' court, and he's like obviously been beaten up regularly. They've probably broken him. Maybe he was like, he was one of the ones who was really fighting back. Skipping a little bit, when Proximus's searchers reached the village looking for May, and she's really fighting back. So you could say maybe they broke his will, and I thought that too. And then so at the end, when they opened the gates and Proximus, I'm like, I said, like, fucking Anaya, you piece of shit, because I thought it was him. I thought he sold them out. Like that went off my head. But yes,
Anaya would never.
Anaya would never. He's good. I can't wait until he dies in the next one.
Well, I don't know what I'll do. I'll die. If anything happens to die, Anaya, I'll kill everyone and then myself.
Exactly. But so Noah decides to head off because he knows where one last full eagle nest is. It's on the highest peak, and everyone gives him props for climbing to the highest peak. No one does that apparently because there's no easy branches, no easy leverage. He has to spear his way there, make his own makeshift ledge, which is really cool. I love that. It was great. And on the way, he notices that his at the bouncer, the fixer that his father and the elder sent is lying on the ground, bleeding to death, stabbed multiple times, and it is horrifying. And that is just so cool in a lot of ways, because he's been, who knows how long he's been there, like dead bodies thrown around, and it's like immediate unease because like you've been following this rural pastoral kind of ape village so long, and he picks up the stun rod, right? And it's like it's so metallic, like you're sucked into like uncanniness of it. I thought. And so he comes across Proximus's crew, and
I thought those masks were
they're so good.
Yeah,
I love it because like not only because you've seen like Noah and the Eagle Clan, they speak, and like I think Suna and Anaya, they speak a little bit better than most of the other apes, right. But like most of them speak like guttural still. They use a lot of sign language, and then here comes Proximus's crew, Lightning and what's his name, the big one,
Silva,
like a gorilla. I got it. All right, like Silverback. So they speak perfect English. And I think that's so great because it shows like they're refined, they're civilized, they have armor,
they have shock prods, they have technology,
they have like clothes too. Like Lightning wears like that that shawl, like that fur. I thought that was really good. They really set off like immediately. That's great. What do you guys think of like their person? I love how much of a jackal kind of minion Lightning is. Like always laughing. He's like a weasel, like a coyote.
Oh, he's a great as like the main heavy for Proxima. Like, yeah, I thought great presence. Always felt threatening whenever he showed. Like, and even when he's not on screen, you're like, he's about to show back up, isn't he? You know, like yeah, it was great.
The thing about Silva in particular, like, he's a true believer. Like he has like real like if Kingdom, much like the original Planet of the Apes, like the original film, is very engaged with like religion, and I know that I think that Burton's version does that too. Like
yes.
We are finally seeing sort of a return to like faith and like the role that faith plays in distorting worldviews and encouraging cruelty against the unbeliever. Like this is very much like a religious war that, which this is all an accident because like this whole thing is just incidental. Like it's not like Lightning and Silver were after the Eagle Clan. They were after May. But they stumbled. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Let's just call it out, right? Like this is like the evil version of Lord of the Rings, right? Like we started in the Shire, right? And then we see forget the guys with the cloaks.
Nazgul.
Nazgul. So imagine if the Nazguls just went right over to the Shire right after that, right?
And they just raised it to the ground. Yeah.
Which happens in a novel, right? That happens in a novel. The novels, the Shire is raised to the ground.
Yeah. And it's like the worst case scenario. And that's just the inciting incident pretty much for the story to start, right? And I think that's a great way for the fantasy,
elements.
We've been talking about having this fantasy tone to it, but there's like this specific identity to it where they've added so much to it.
It's mythic. It's like the Caesar trilogy had that quality. Like we said, like he's a messiah figure, he's Moses, but like this is just even further doubling down of like these are like the ape myths that we're seeing.
I mean, this is the beginning of A New Hope, where like the droids accidentally the Empire to destroy
Luke's home
family. Like, I mean, this is not a ding about Kingdom. It's suggesting that both are tying into like deep archetypal storytelling mechanisms, which is I think why Kingdom is so powerful. Like,
I think that like for my columns about Kingdom, which are very minor, I'll rewatch it like a lot in the coming years. I can tell
I'm probably gonna like it even more. Like I already really like it, but rewatching it further time, I'm probably just going to double down on
the stuff that you really do. I really enjoy. I think that will stand the test of time. But you're definitely right about the fantasy elements and how that comes across here, especially when you mention TJ and like Silva's a true believer, because when you get to the village, when Noah races his way back after and I love that because like it's comedic, but it's like it's tense when he's like his own horse gives him away. It's like it's like one of those things, like I mentioned, with battle and conquest and escape as well. These things just build. They just build. Like you don't know what the domino effects will have until they happen, and you realize this could have all been avoided. It was a mistake. It never should have happened, And yet it does, and you have to deal with the consequences. And I think that really does sort of just hammer in Noah's whole sort of perseverance and determination moving forward. But when he meets up with Silva, like with Lightning, he's happy to just be fighting. Like that's what Lightning would do anything. He doesn't care. As long as he gets to like punch something or bite something or scratch something. But Silva is like he's methodical. when he fights, it's because he believes it's
when he says for Caesar, he believes that.
He believes like this is what's best. This is what God wants for me to like kill this guy. Okay, I'm honoring the words of like. Our religion.
He's a fundamentalist.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a true believer.
And as he was saying, this is something that we see in the Burton film as well. Michael Clark Duncan's character, who I love. I love all this the CMO stuff. You're just buying into that because it not only enables you to do things that in terms of control, but it allows others to have control over you. And so like Proximus, like I think Silva will take Proximus any day of the week, but because of in the structure of the religion. Proximus is a chimp and all that kind of stuff. That and he's Caesar. They believe in Caesar. It's keeping people into these rigid roles or apes into these roles.
Right.
And I do think that's how we're gonna get that kind of stratified society if they get that far in this series.
Right.
I mean, we already see like from the original Planet of the Apes and then even the sequels, they're a very theocratic society. Like, like the lawgiver is like a sacred figure. Like they have holy statues of and sacred texts. Like it's a whole thing.
Yeah. And so being a lawgiver, but I'll get into that a little bit more right now because Noah goes off on his quest, to find his family. He buries his dad, and that's really sad. Because like the last thing he sees is that his dad like kind of reach out to him as he falls, and he wakes up, and they like you know what's happened in the meantime, but then he sees like his dad after the moment after Noah fell, his dad just went immediately over to like Sybil probably didn't waste any time, just kind of came over, and like that's sad because like he didn't get to see that. He couldn't. There's nothing he could do to prevent it.
You see his father's ego like screeching for like in grief. It's quite a wrenching moment.
Exactly. And so he goes off in his way. He following the tracks. He's following their path. He finds his mother's blanket, all of that. And he meets Raka. And I think Raka is great because
Raka rules.
Raka rules. Raka's amazing. I made a post when we first got the first trailer. I'm like, I don't trust that orangutan. And I was wrong because like I still think that orangutans are going to be dickheads sooner or later.
Well, we know what Zayas is, like, and he's given all the other orangutans a bad rep. They're not all like Zayas.
They're not like
some are more open-minded.
Yeah. Again,
they get into medicine, it's game over.
It's game over. Yeah, they start getting PhDs. It's run. But he meets Raka, who is the last of the Order of Caesar, which presumably was started by Maurice after Caesar's death. And
I love that the symbol of that is like that they've taken that window from the from Rise, and that's just like the whole base, like that iconography is just carried on, and they wouldn't know that that's what that from, like, oh, that's just a window from Caesar's old home, but like that's I think there's something really powerful to that.
Yeah, because it shows it's like what you might think is important or might not think is important at the time.
Becomes like the defining thing.
Yeah, you don't know how that's going to echo throughout history, how that's going to reverb throughout history, and it's great because like what Caesar probably would have wanted was for his message, his ideals to have carried forward, but that's not really the case. His iconography has endured, like his mythology has endured, but not what he really wanted. And you can see that with Raka, because Raka, he's probably the biggest link we have to Caesar in this movie, and not even he gets it. Like he understands most of it.
He has kernels, and he's the closest to like understanding Caesar's message. Yeah, but like even he's only getting bits and pieces of it.
And the most that he gets is like just a general idea of like sensibility of peace.
Oh, humans were important to Caesar, so I think we should try and make things work with humans.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets that,
but like, and
he doesn't really like them.
No, he doesn't really.
He's fascinated by them.
Yeah. Yes, because right now, because this is why I was talking about TJ before earlier, like the other day. Caesar's message has no value to apes anymore. Like the base tenets, like ape not kill ape, together strong. Those are the only things that have value to apes anymore. But the actual content message has no value anymore because no ape has any reference to the world that was.
Right.
So like if. And
they're kind of just become empty slogans that can be recontextualized. However,
exactly. And so when Raka starts to describe like Caesar's rule, Caesar's law, and all that kind of stuff, again I started tearing up a bit because like you're seeing like again this slow dissolving of like who Caesar was as a person, like his actual intent because right now like even Raka and all these apes like they grew up in a world that is impossible to contextualize, to like actually kind of integrate with what Caesar wanted. Like why would they even care? Like even Raka, given the choice, I don't think Raka would choose like that because in a sense, like it's hard to understand a world that is not the one that you were born into. Okay, and in their world, humans are just feral animals or at worst pests.
Right, they have no context for the idea of an intelligent, like they're going through an abandoned mall, and Rocco's like, "Yeah, this is probably where they kind of just kept humans here, kept them happy." Yeah, it was like a zoo for them.
They might have even taught them. And then he laughs at the absurdity of the very idea.
Yeah, like yeah, he
you misheard her. She didn't talk, like.
And then even after
even conceptualize that.
And then even after they find out that May is sentient and like a cognizant being. Raka especially kind of treats her like with like amusement and wonder more than as an actual.
He's definitely
being.
talking down to like a child, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
one quick aside about Raka, I think he deserves credit for being our first queer ape.
Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah. I love that wasn't even. It was very blatant.
When he says like he gestures at the pyre and is like he was my village, I was like, oh, like
I didn't even catch that. I feel like
it's great. I love Raka, and on one hand I don't hope I hope he's alive and comes back.
Well, because he was so great. Yeah, but then I think I'm gonna be on the same. Like I'm torn because like I want more of him. I love that character, but then also on bringing him back, does that undo the dramatic what we got out of his?
Or does that make him liable to or susceptible to what happens to Noah at the end? This decay of innocence. Because Raka right now he's innocent. Like he understands a idealized version of the world like Caesar. I don't want to see him like lose that worldview.
I don't want to force this point too much, but if we're going with the sort of like epic fantasy like story structure, he's basically Gandalf. Like
Gandalf came back.
Gandalf did come back.
That's Rock of the White. So like he's
Rock of the
White. Like that is my because if as I suspect like this is sort of following that structure. I would imagine in my head canon, the prologue of the second film is going to be like Raka connecting with another group of orangutans.
I would like.
I said, a Raka's return, would he come back in a more cynical form? Like a Raka that survives all this, he's not going to be as innocent,
Or a Raka that learns May's betrayal.
Mm-hmm. Right, because we got to also consider like when Raka leaves in the story and what happens after, right? Because his whole character is about how Caesar's message becomes a broken telephone over time, right? And then when we see Proximus enter the picture, right? The whole message behind that character is that everyone kind of knows that he's full of it, right? Like only his diehards know that he's like, everyone else though is just kind of going along with it because there's only power in forcing them to do so.
Right, exactly.
They have to go along with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's interesting with what this trilogy is setting up is is the way forward a way that's been written down before, right? That's what really the concept is, right? They're trying to figure out what ideas from the past we want to keep.
Caesar really needed to record a book on tape. He should have left something for them to go on.
Maurice is a terrible teacher. Maurice is a terrible teacher. Okay, who knows? Maybe he died of a heart attack like a week after Caesar died.
He died of a broken heart. He couldn't go on.
But just surrounding the Raka thing, it's like the idea of these teachings, right? Like he shows the flip side of one side of the coin where essentially it's pure, right? His love for Caesar's teachings, he sees as a way of moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. When we move on to the Proximus stuff, we'll talk about how they use these stories as a motivating factor towards just manual like slave labor. Like they're just forcing other apes into just doing their bidding, and they're using the past as the way of enforcing this. And seeing the ways that those stories are corrupted over time is probably one of my favorite parts of this movie. I think that's where some of the more interesting things come in for this second half.
Yeah, exactly. And what I really love about this part, because it's where we start to really see like where this movie is trying to merge in a couple of the campier aspects of the original series. Sure. And I'm not gonna say I'm a huge mark. Okay, even though it's like I would say like maybe 1% kind of forced when Raka says the word lawgiver, I'm like yes, we're doing this shit. Yeah, we're doing it. I always thought that lawgiver as a term was always like really cool. Like in Judge Dredd, in this, just hearing that, I think that
especially in the ape context, it carries a lot
of weight. Yeah, a lot of weight, a lot of meaning, and this is if we put a like domino effect all the way up until like the original film or like whatever we get in terms of like that original film in this series, that's a huge domino that drops there. Like you see that ape society is on rails and you can't really divert from it, or like you might want it to divert. So like this really hits that. And then or
by trying to divert, are we just causing the thing we're trying to avoid?
Exactly. And And I think that with Noah, especially throughout the film, like he has a very unique and set understanding of like what natural laws are or in his purview. And so and his idea of like that there is a set order, order to the world, or that there should be, and his sort of disillusionment, both his clan and just the world in general. And I think that this is a really important part, because not only is he seeing through Rocket like friendship and also a better understanding of what ape society could be, or maybe other ape cultures could be, together through Caesar, and just the sort of preliminary he gets. But also when he gets to the observatory, he realizes that there's more. I don't think he's ever really thought about it, but now you can see like
it's literally universe. Zooming out and seeing a bigger, like I love the observatory stuff of him like looking through it, and then also seeing May look through it, and that kind of being like our first inkling of like, wait, she seems like she kind of understands what that is.
Yeah, I really wish the trailers had not ruined the fact that she's a sentient human. Like, that's still one of my greatest peeves about the trailers. That like the final trailer is like they reveal that she can speak.
I guess I just missed the final. Well, I purposely also just show up late for I try and time of like, okay, I know when the actual movie is starting. So like,
15 minutes.
I didn't see the most recent. So the main thing was a total surprise to me.
That's good.
Because it was not for me. And I was like, God damn it. Like, I was just so annoyed because it was like the last trailer that came out on YouTube. And I was like, oh, I'm going to watch it. And then like,
it's always the last one that gives like too much for like
too much
bigger movies. It's like, no, you guys were good for like 2 trailers. I don't need to like they just released some new Furiosa thing the other day. Like I already know I'm seeing it. So like I don't need to see that.
Right. 6 minutes long. It was crazy.
Yeah, I was like, is this just you're just showing me scenes from the movie? I'm gonna see that in a couple of days. I don't need that.
Yeah.
And so, I do love the observatory stuff because they mentioned it's like zooming out. It's that thing from like even beneath, where like you're talking about the context of like this planet, this world in a global context. Like, what does that mean? And
I'm glad they just keep that importance on a thematic level, especially at the end. I was worried Noah was gonna look through it and then he sees like the Icarus crash.
Let's just jump into that right now, because I've seen some people who think that's what happened.
Well, I mean, why?
Because people are like, okay, like he looks worried at something. He's worried.
Taylor showing up now would not be dramatically I mean, the conflict of it being like that he's like this sole intelligent like there's so many intelligent humans running around right now at this point. Like Taylor showing up would not be like a unique phenomenon. I mean, sure, he like is from a different time and he's displaced, but like it's less interesting if everyone else, there's still humans that can talk.
There's no unified ape society yet, so like what are we doing there? But people think that's what happened, and then the next movie will be just the remake of Planet of the Apes. Like, are you insane?
If we get to that, I assume that will just be like movie 9 or like like at the very end.
I'll tell you how they'll do it. They'll wait until the end of the Noah story, and then right at the end they'll go, wait, what's that in the sky? And then that will be like the credit roll before the next trilogy that they do. And it's just
see, in my mind, we're still like hundreds of years removed from that happening.
That's also possible.
I feel like go ahead.
Is that the Noah series will move us forward until like we get sort of the building blocks of
ape society.
And then
we could get another time jump after Noah's story, and then maybe we're closer to like the ape society that we know from the original.
I feel like what TJ is saying, I agree, is that Noah is ape society, and I'm going to get into that a little bit further.
Yeah, I see we see the seeds of that here.
But I think that he is. I think that he is ape society. But we're going to move ahead a little bit. Observatory, and then they meet the herds of humans, and I love this because this is like one of those things where like it's a bit like oil and water, because you have like you're coming off like the Caesar trilogy, very gritty, very grounded. Someone laughed like, oh, you think these movies are grounded? Like relatively to what Planet of the Apes is, yes, the Caesar trilogy is pretty gritty and grounded. And then you have like cavemen with like loincloths and loincloth bikinis and everything. Yeah, no, that's something that's pulled straight from there. There's no point to it. There's no reason for it. That wouldn't really, if you were taking it as seriously as the Caesar trilogy, you wouldn't even have it. But I'm glad that we got these cave people again.
Like I think you could like intellectually game out of like how the de-evolved humans would just be at that state already of like being in like I don't know. It still feels in that way like I don't think these movies are going to be as interested in being grounded as grounded as.
He froze. You're frozen. Anyway, wait for him to get back on here.
Well, we have some time. I just wanted to say, TJ, your cat is very cute.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's Chicky. He keeps wandering up into the frame.
But yeah, no. I like it because like it's not something they needed to do. And I don't think I think that if the original sort of tone was there, they wouldn't have done it this way. It'd probably be a little bit more feral, a little bit more sort of animalistic. These are just like the standard cave people, just like rummaging through the forest, doing what they're doing. You're back.
Yeah, we're so back.
Right. You were saying you cut off the middle of the sentence.
I already. What was I saying?
We're talking about cave people.
Oh, that didn't seeing them already regress to that stage, like I don't know, 300 years or so later. It doesn't. That didn't feel unrealistic to me. Like I said, like I don't. Think
I mean, like the
be
cave people sort of aesthetic is unrealistic a little bit.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, come on. You think that like feral people are still gonna be like, oh, I gotta get like clothes on?
Oh,
like,
you're saying they would just be naked? Yeah, probably. They probably
something like that.
Well, but there's environmental factors to protect from like they need something sometimes to wear. Like, oh.
Yeah, and you know what? On that note, they're not wearing shoes through a lot of this movie, and like I'm just like, wait a second, humans wearing like no shoes through like the forest makes no sense to me.
Well, I mean, it makes a little bit of sense. Like having grown up in the country where we don't like, whereas during the summers I wouldn't wear a lot of shoes as a kid. Like your feet kind of develop like a
callus,
so that it's not quite as like.
And no one's telling them to protect from tick bites. So like, what do they know about that?
That's the problem. Lyme disease.
Yeah, you got to remember, like much as I said earlier, with like chimps only living 30 years or whatever, like the average human lifespan sans like medical institutions.
Yeah, once you take away modern medicine and they're just out in the wild, like, and they're dumber, like, I don't think they're lasting very long.
35 years tops. So, like, I think that it makes sense that, again, several generations. And it's worth noting May's absolute horror.
Yes.
He sees them in this state. Because, of course, has been sequestered.
It's like a visual reminder to her of like what's at stake, of like that's why
what's important,
why the silo is like, no, that's ours, humanity needs that, because then we're just going to become that.
Exactly. And so you can pull that back to the observatory too, because when Noah looks into it, he sees like the wondrous world that's opening up to him, and then when May looks through it, you get the impression again, it's that kind of same like a horror, like this is what we lost.
Right.
This the stars, the expanse, like this dominion of
this
ours.
was all ours, and it's gone now.
Exactly. And so you can really like during the early parts of this, you can see like they're like moving like distinctly in cross purposes the entire time. They're diverging from the moment they meet, which is really good. And you're right, the horror at that, it does sort of add to like just how aggressive she becomes and how doggedly she pursues her goals there. So you can't really blame her. I blame her a lot though. Push her into the fire. But yes, they see zebras for the first time. Cute. He's gone again. He's gone again. So they see zebras. I wonder what May's plan was really. Like Rocca's like, I'll teach you how to speak maybe someday.
Also interesting about the zebras, that kind of invokes the imagery of the zoo before we even get that storybook about the zoo later on, right? I think that's a pretty interesting piece of symbolism there.
So we're talking about the zebras and like,
I love that moment. Yes,
and like Tony was saying right now, if I can repeat just to get you caught up, that with zebras, it kind of like when they see it again in the Day of the Zoo book, it kind of reinforces like this natural expanse, the nature, like everything was under this prism, this containment of humans. So not just shows that it's not just like
not just apes. They kept all of us in cages.
Yes. The natural world that like the Eagle Clan like sort of deifies, worships, like communes with, like that's at stake for Noah as well. Like he realizes that what he's been helping is like the enemy of nature.
It's not just ape freedom, it's like the Earth's freedom,
I mean, it also evokes, one of the things I've been thinking about as I watched the movie was like, are there other ape colonies scattered across the country, like from other zoos that presumably, because we know from Bad Ape that apes that contracted the simian flu without like the original colony that Caesar establishes also developed enhanced intelligence. So one would assume that like across the globe, like many
we'll probably
other
find out.
That's the one thing I always want to cut to another country. Like let me see what's going on in Europe or like
or
Asia,
South America.
Yeah.
I mean, since the original novel is French, like let's see the French like.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
It would be. It would. I want to see that. I want to see like let's do it beyond the Planet of the Apes.
We also again the
Australian apes, and it's just Mad Max.
no, that's Howling 3.
I mean, we also know that gibbons are intelligent. Otherwise, Rocco wouldn't make a point of mentioning them. So it's really, I'm as I say on Twitter all the time, I'm tired of this gibbon erasure. I want to see
more distinct ape species. Yeah, yeah.
So,
no, it's really. So another thing about this scene, right? As we get when Rocca starts to like move May along, like he has his journey, we have ours. I'm gonna teach you how to speak, like, and then May's like, I wonder what May's game plan there. Was she gonna like just try to knock Rocca out or something like that? Like,
for Noah,
yeah, what was gonna happen there? But what I like about this because you get like again, it's like a 3-punch thing. Like you have lawgiver, you have the feral apes and humans, looking straight out of the original series, and then you have finally like this reemergence of the classic Jerry Goldsmith score in this scene when
with nets over human. I mean, yes.
Like, was it diegetic? Was someone in?
Dude,
we should have cut to like an ape with a horn.
Oh, exactly. I maybe it was. It did sound a little bit diegetic. It didn't sound like score. Maybe like I think maybe they were doing a half measure there. But I loved it. Like it's like this is classic. Again, this is one of the things where like it's a little bit corny, a little bit silly, but it's also like this is where ape society is headed. There's no stopping the future. Like even the tagline, right? You can't stop the rain, and it might not be Proximus' reign, but it's apes. It's the reign of ape kind. You can't stop it. It's here. Like they're just witnesses to it.
Right.
They're witnesses to history. There's nothing else they can do. And so I love that. Again, tall grass, all this running. It's amazing. And then you have sort of May and Noah running at each other. I love this shot. Love the shot as well.
Yeah, just like the editing stamp as like an action set piece, and like that beat specifically of like her running to Noah, and then she's about to get grabbed, and like that was all very exciting.
Westfall is a very accomplished action filmmaker. Like, I don't think that he's like, gonna set the world on fire with like the best movie in the world or whatever. But I do think that he is very gifted at making these kinds of movies, these kinds of like blockbuster epics with a bunch of side characters. Effects heavy, exactly. And also, I don't even think we've touched on that point in particular. I think the CGI is like pretty much perfect as it's going.
It's incredible. I mean, it was already so good, the motion capture in the Caesar trilogy, but like I feel like it's progressed to the point where I'm not questioning that at this level of ape evolution. Like they're talking more, they're doing more advanced things than the apes in the last trilogy, and it's not setting off my uncanny valley like radar or anything.
100%.
So it was so silly to like in lead up to like hear people saying like, "Oh my god,
this doesn't look the animation doesn't look good."
And so I said like you're only saying that because we're now seeing like the like more of the kind of stuff they were doing originally, seeing that they're speaking more. It's setting off like.
Well, and we're watching a compressed Twitter video, so it's like I don't know. Just wait till you see it on the big screen. Like it usually looks better.
Exactly.
My favorite trick that they do visually, and the scene in the wheat field does this as well, is the depth of field. There's a lot of shallow depth of field in this movie, and this film does a great job of playing with how the computer-generated characters operate within the depth of field. And since it's very shallow for a lot of the film, there's a lot of apes out of focus, which is not something that you usually see in these movies. Like usually when you see the apes, they're pretty clear, right? And the focus is rather deep. So the fact that we're getting this shallow depth of field really adds this like lived-in feeling to the ape.
Yeah, it all feels like tangible. Like I said, like I don't question any of it ever. And like it's that good blending of like techniques to make it feel like they actually filmed some apes here.
Yeah, and like I really wonder what the mocap cut is going to look like.
Oh,
I would be very interested to watch that. Yeah,
I'm gonna watch it. I'm really I'm really curious because like a lot of this CGI environments as well, and like you really sort of buy into the environments,
which looks seamless too. I'm like, oh,
the
this is a
apocalyptic
real
world.
this is a real field. They were really here. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a real destroyed, bombed out city, you know. So it's gonna be fun. I think a lot of maybe sound stages, a lot of props. Who knows? I'm excited. But moving ahead, Raka comes and saves them by killing one of Caesar's clan.
Big old club.
Yeah, just knocks him dead. And they learn May can speak and have their first conference. And May decides to, tell them a couple of lies as we figure out about her backstory and to endear herself to Raka and Noah. And Raka's like, we're all like a family. We're all pulling together. Which could be further from the truth, but that's his worldview. He thinks that like, okay, we are all bonded by a similar tragedy.
Well, and Raka sees this as like almost like a sacred calling of like, oh, well, this is what Caesar would have wanted me to be part of this. So like, I got to do this.
Like this is what Caesar saw in humans, like intelligence, sympathy, sapience, like respect. And we should respect.
And
like
the whole idea when May says, like, when they ask like why the deceit, and she said her mother taught her silence. I think that's like an interesting reflection of like in Escape when they initially get back to the 70s, Zira and Cornelius, they're just like, let's just play dumb, like we can't. If they know that we're smart, this is like not gonna end well. So like their initial strategy is just zip it up.
Exactly. And later on, Noah begrudgingly decides like, this makes sense and we should just kind of forge on. And later that night, he starts his initial attempts to repair a stun rod that he got from one of Proximus' clan. And
May, a pretty good engine. Like he's never seen that prod until he ran into Proximus. He figured that shit out. He's pretty intuitive.
Yeah,
we know he's a mechanical mind because he fixes the fishing
hut.
That's true.
He knows about engineering. He has some adeptness to it. And May looks at him, and so this is another part where like May looks at it, and we see also like worry and a little bit of fear because she realizes that like that they're smart. I think this is like she's seen like pastoralness, she's seen like rural nature, but this is the first time that I think she's probably come across, other than Proximus's group, that any individual ape.
An ape using a tool and a piece of technology and probably thinking to that silo of like, well, if they have what's in there, like they would figure out how to use it.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't need human beings to know how to use it. If they don't. Like she sees from Noah that like they have intuitiveness, they have creativity, they could figure it out eventually. Okay.
Yeah, and they could figure out how to drive a tank. I mean, fucking, they were doing it in the last trilogy.
Cobra did it after like a few seconds of seeing one. So
they do it in the cartoon all the time. Okay.
I need to watch this cartoon.
It's really boring. But yeah, so that's the fear in her eye. I really at that point I realized that like they are at cross purposes. Okay, she doesn't trust him, even though he's trying to extend trust to her. And again, we see the scarecrows, which I love. I always love seeing the scarecrows. I love seeing them in War, in the Burning remake, in the original. I love the scarecrows, the big outstretched gorilla scarecrows. So again, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of stuff that's tying into the original. And here we get a really great scene where Raka has to fight off Silva and Lightning, and they almost get away with it. But then, unfortunately, they get May, strung off overboard, and Raka sacrifices his life to save her.
Well, he sacrificed, asterisk. We'll see. Did he sacrifice his life?
Raka survives.
Raka survives.
I didn't see a death certificate. So
Raka will return.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Somehow Raka has returned.
Somehow Raka returned.
And his last words so far are "together strong." He doesn't say "apes together strong." He says "together,"
which is so powerful. Yeah,
like he realized, like he believes in Caesar's dream of unity. Okay, unity between species, of peace. Okay, which he didn't believe in it. I don't think he believed in it until he died, until his last moments.
He knew the message was important, but he like actually you could tell he felt it in that moment. You know,
Exactly.
like this wasn't just him parroting or repeating what he knew of Caesar. This was just like, no, this is what it's about.
Exactly, because right then again, apes. Why would apes care about context they don't have any reference for? Like, why would he care about unity and peace with like these feral animals? He treats them like pets, but he sees like
right. He just discovered the concept of a human that's like sapient. Like
exactly, and so that's together strong. That's peace between species. That's like the world Caesar wanted, and so he realizes that, and he's like, that's his last passing word to Noah. Like, trust her. Stay with her, basically.
Although, how would Rocket feel if he knew the full truth about it?
Like a dumbass. I would. Anyway, moving ahead. So they are captured, and we get this great shot where it's a parallel to the original. They're on the beach on the coastline to the secret of humanity.
I mean, anytime any of these movies go to a beach, I just like start getting chill. Like, I don't know, it's like programmed viscerally into me. I'm like, even though I did not expect we were going to see, like, I was like, oh, they're going to show the statue. I was like, no, just these beaches in these films carry so much power.
But a secret of humanity's past, basically. And vast dominance, and so that's where they meet Proximus's clan. And Proximus is very much based off of the original plan for Caesar in battle. Again, a despotic dictator who is very influenced by Roman society. And the original plan for a battle, of course, he's modeled dictatorship after Roman society, much like Proximus does.
Well, and he straight up says at the end, he's like, "I am Caesar now." That's I'm the new iteration of that later, and I like to know, having just learned from Rock, he's like, you're not Caesar. Like, me, someone who's known about this for a long time, I know you're not Caesar.
Speaking of the Roman stuff, the English major in me is very vexed whenever we first meet Trevathan and he meets May, and he's like, oh, Vonnegut didn't write much fiction, but he wrote about the Romans. I'm like, that's literally, if you're talking about Kurt Vonnegut, you're literally saying the exact opposite of the
I think that had to be intentional, right? Of like just some like misremembering or misinterpretation of like, even if he can read and has the books, like he wouldn't maybe have full context for things.
I am glad that the movie had the shame to not show the full title of that book. Okay, because as a Kurt Vonnegut fan, I know exactly what book that was based on the cover, and it was Welcome to the Monkey House. Okay, so I'm glad they had the shame.
That's the restraint that they should, even though I love the Reeves movies, that's the restraint we needed in war, to not show apocalypse now. Like, we didn't need that written on the, I already got that there was apocalypse now. I didn't need to see it like graffitied on the wall. We needed that restraint in Rise as well. Okay, we didn't need curly voiced Malfoy going and repeating Charlton Heston lines. We didn't need that moment rules though.
Remember that when they made Rise, I don't think they actually knew they were going to get it. Like, nobody.
They were just like, okay, let's reboot it. Like, I don't think that they had a plan.
Literally nobody at the time. I remember very clearly. I was like, no one's gonna want to see a planet. That's why they put it in August, where you put anything that you don't think people are gonna.
Right.
But anyway.
So
go ahead. The Vonnegut thing, I was like, that's literally. I mean, I was like, that can't be true unless you're talking about a different Vonnegut.
His history's been changed. There's multiple. There's a different Vonnegut.
Oh, they might have like only 3 of his books, and two of them might be.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even if you can read and have some basic of the, like, he's still hundreds of years removed from all of it. Like, he wouldn't. Yeah,
no one's printing new books.
Right.
Also,
and he has no internet.
This is just a book like centric thing. I'm looking at this like ship that's by the ocean with the salt water, and I see these books on the shelf exposed to the seaside air. I'm like, these are not going to last very long.
Okay, but they could be new. Okay, because Trevathan says that Proximus is like doing what he can to make him comfortable. So he could be sending scouts to cities.
I assumed that that was my headcanon, but I was like, these books are not going to last very long. You got to preserve.
Right.
You gotta resume stuff. Anyway, so he meets the kingdom of Proximus Caesar, kingdom of the apes, kingdom of the planet of the apes.
Hey, that's
and
a movie.
it's in the movie, yes. And it is quite a kingdom. He has his legion of nuns or harem. But I don't know who those apes are.
It made me the way they're reaching out to him. It made me think of in Matrix Reloaded when he gets to Zion and like there's like a crowd of people out of Neo's and they're all just like reaching out to him. And he like wants nothing to do. He's like, oh, he's like, I don't want to do this Messiah stuff.
It's also of the end of Rise when Caesar's walking down the aisle of like apes in the Muir Woods.
Oh yeah,
up to him like with a supplication gesture.
Yes, exactly. That's fantastic. Great parallel right there. And we realize that, as we mentioned before, he twisted Caesar's words, apes together strong, ape not kill ape, all of that, as a way to basically impose authority over ape kind. Because like if apes together are strong, that means all apes must be together. Okay, that means all apes must be united, and I'm the ruler of this gun, so they must be all united under me. Okay, and he's using that to impose authority over them and trying to open up a giant metal gate. And to no avail. He has explosives. He has what I don't know what that was. It looked like kind of like some sort of phosphorus or something.
Yeah. And again, I didn't know any of this stuff from if it was in the last trailer. Like I said, I didn't see the last trailer. So
yeah,
like, when they showed the doors to the silo, I'm like, are we getting into some lost shit? Like, what's in there?
At that point, I'm like, in the trailers, I didn't see their last one, but in the trailers, when I see like May and her clothing, like she's like gotta be descended from some sort of. She's not regular.
And as the movie goes on, even before she talks, I had tracking of like. Yeah, the other humans are in loin like her. She has like clothes. Like she's wearing like actual clothes that fit her.
So my thought originally was that maybe she's descended from astronauts, or she's some sort of science base, which ends up being a little bit more correct. But then when we get to that gate door, I'm like, are we seeing the mutants? Are there mutants inside that gate?
I was hoping,
and I was hoping too. Like, because again, shades of battle throughout the entire movie. So I'm like, is this like that equivalent to like the ape city, the mutant city kind of conflict here, which we don't get to quite yet, but it is.
Well, that silo was big. There could have been an underground chamber with the alpha mate. We don't know.
Exactly. There could have been bunkers in there. There was definitely beds in a school, so they were down there for the long haul. And so again, very, very classical fantasy vibes. He gets called to the chambers of Emperor Proximus Caesar, and it's like he's got a long table, he's got fresh fruit. It is very decadent, very hedonistic, and he basically treats Trevathan as like a court jester. He's and it's like it's very very medieval, very storybook kind of vibes, and I love everything that Proximus says in this speech. Everything he says, it is not right. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. Nothing he says is wrong. It's his intent that is the disgusting part. They had dominion. They had knowledge. Everything he says is an echo of what the lawgiver, what Dr. Zayas say in the original series. They had knowledge. They wasted it. They ruined what they did. They had contempt and destructive nature against the entire world, against the world that we live in, and apes have the right to rule. We have the right to rule now. It is our duty, our responsibility to rule. And I love that part where he's like, we're all gonna learn. We're all gonna learn how to rule, but I will learn. Because if not enough that he doesn't really care about everyone else, but like if he learns, then of course that's a net benefit for anyone. He'll learn, and he'll take us all along with him. Forced evolution, which is a great concept.
I believe you mean evolution.
Evolution.
I don't even think we've actually said, but Kevin Durant is amazing in this movie.
He's incredible. I think the whole cast is uniformly really. I can't even think who would be the weak link in it, but like but especially him. Like he really delivers in a franchise with typically really strong like villainous ape. Like I feel like Koba, even Arlo, or like
Aldo.
Aldo, sorry, Arlo.
Arlo.
Where did I get that from? It's Justified or something.
I just released like I put out a newsletter today about ranking the Apes villains, and it's like as you look back, you realize just how extremely well this franchise develops its villainy. Like there's no one who's like absolutely bad. Like
right,
and Breck would be my closest. Breck would be my closest, but even he is really entertaining.
He's the closest to just a one note like I'm evil, you know, like it's less because but you still understand. But he has an interesting. He has a moment that felt like an echo of Woody Harrelson in War for the Planet, where he's like, "I'm doing all this with an iron fist because like I see what's coming." You know, like this is like if I fail, I am the last line of defense, and if I fail, then it will be the Planet of the Apes.
As I say, they both have the dubious distinction of uttering the line "Planet of the Apes," like they, like where it's just a little too on the nose. Where they're like, well, "If we don't do this, we'll be ruled by a planet of apes," and it's like.
But Breck says it a little bit better because he's like Planet of Apes,
right? And because with Breck, everything is dialed up to 11, so like you kind of expect that kind of like.
Right. And the ones who survive are the cowardliest of all.
Yes, that's a very good Breck impression, I have to say.
I love that. I love that. Again, I rank Conquest a little bit lower, but everything in the last 10 minutes is fantastic.
I mean, because I think what Durand like really captures about villainy is the same thing that makes like Culp from both Conquest and Battle so good is because it's just this side of camp, but there's just such pleasure in watching Durand form villainy because there's this in its excess. There's a certain kind of subtlety in much the same way that Culp has this kind of almost comedic edge, but he's really awful and tortures Armando to death, basically.
Right.
So, like in the same way, you know, Proximus is also like just deliciously delightful to watch.
Exactly.
I could like if anything tells me,
and you see where all the villains are coming from. Like like there's like the even with the like most over dramatic performances of them in the series, you still get that tinge of like, okay, like you understand like why they're so fervent of in their point of view and why they need to do this.
All right, Tony, go.
Kingdom, like much like other Disney movies. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, TJ, keep going. You were just in the middle of it. Go for it.
It seems to me that like Proximus is a new Disney villain. Like he has kind of panache as a Disney villain.
Yeah.
He is kind of a Gaston-y kind of character, right? The way that he has he has a lot of confidence issues even, right? You can kind of see that there's a little bit of insecurity there. I guess just to a larger point, because we were talking about how there's all these complicated, weighty things and how TJ, you were referencing before the kind of surprise of Rise of the Planet of the Apes becoming a success and the success of this franchise enduring since then. I think that's exactly the appeal of this franchise in its whole. The apes being human is already very close to just humanity, right? Since we've evolved from apes. So there's that level of abstraction. And then that abstraction is also carried over to how the villains and the heroes are played. There's a blurring of the lines of all of these moralities that come together. And that's when the best villains appear. And Kevin Durand, I don't think that he's trying to steal the show. I don't get the impression that he's trying to take this movie away from anyone. Instead, he's delivering
doing it
exactly
in service of the movie. Yes,
exactly. He's the exact presence that you need in that exact moment, and he does it so well.
Like so many great villain arcs, when they're like mirrors of the journey the protagonist is on, I really appreciate that. Like by the end, Noah, when he's having the like. I mean, Proximus was right about you, human. Like there's the moment it was like, okay, yes, he was an awful, dictator, but like he wasn't wrong about stuff, like he had you guys clocked.
I mean, because May literally drowns like hundreds of apes, like
right,
blood. It's just like,
again, it goes to like everything that Zayas said, everything that Lawgiver said. I posted again after I came home from watching Planet Apes. I posted the scene from the original. Man is greedy. Man is duplicitous. Man is aggressive. You can't trust them. They will backstab you for what they think is theirs.
That's me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I mentioned this, CJ, mainly after I finished watching it, but I read your review and I saw so many things about this here and there. It feels like the entire movie we said mythic. said it before. This feels like the sacred scrolls are being written as we're seeing it. Like this feels like the biblical story, the biblical origin of the religion. And so, like, just skipping ahead a little bit more, because we're on the point right now. I think Noah could end up becoming the lawgiver. I think again, you have eagles. You have maybe an ease of communication. He understands he's been told about the importance of the written word. He sees books. He understands that symbols have meaning, and he knows where Raka left his books. He's intelligent enough to reverse engineer how to fix a stun rod. He could be intelligent enough to learn how to read. Yeah. Okay, I think that maybe he could become the lawgiver, or maybe Rock comes back and they kind of create that together. I wouldn't be surprised when we get to the sequel, if the sequel happens. Hope we're all kind of thinking that it will. It's been a success. It made back pretty much double its budgets already.
I think they're making more. Like, I don't think we're stopping now.
I wouldn't be surprised at the beginning we're seeing a little time skip, and maybe he's been studying. Like he says at the end, we're going to use everything that we learned to become stronger. Okay, yes. to develop more. He's saying basically the exact same things that Proximus has said. Okay, and except now he's like, because that's he agrees. Like, apes should learn, apes should develop. Okay, with or without humans, they need to do that for themselves to protect themselves. Okay, because now he knows the danger, and so I think that like it really does. It feels like an epic, like a fantasy epic, but also feels like a biblical epic. Okay,
yeah.
My two favorite genres.
Exactly. I feel
it's
like
our stealth way to bring biblical epics back is through Planet Apes. I mean, if that's do it.
I wouldn't be surprised if like the last of the Noah trilogy is him writing them down, or Raka, or someone writing down the scrolls. I think that'd be really cool.
Ben-Hur. I'm ready for Ape Ben-Hur. Let's do
it. I want them on chariots. That'd be awesome.
Yes.
Apes and chariots. That's what we need. Yes.
Anyway, so on that point, moving ahead, Noah goes through a crisis of faith. He realizes that May not only lied to him because Proximus tells him that May is from a colony of smart humans, and she didn't lose her family or anything like that. It was a scouting mission because he is in control of a vault of human knowledge, and he wants to use that human knowledge to expand his kingdom and basically just hold dominion over the earth. And Noah just thought that he was doing something innocent, and he takes his heart, because I mentioned Raka's final words to him were to help May, and how can he help someone he can't trust? Okay, May is a liar. May is the snake in the grass in the Eden of the Eagle clan. Okay, she invaded their village as well.
Literally,
okay.
Yeah, that's how
she is the snake. She is the biblical snake in their Paradise Lost here. And he confronts her about it, like what's your plan? What's the real thing we're gonna do? And they get into their first theological argument here, like, okay, so humans aren't extinct or are smart, and like how do they do with apes? Like, oh, I just want help to bring help to my people. So just so that we can learn, moderate respect of that nature. And so he decides to figure out a plan. And we first is the crisis of faith, and we get that first scene where he's like, "What do I do? What is my purpose? How can I fight against this war machine?" Okay, and that's a really great scene. It's a lovely scene. There's a lot. I think people have noted that there's lots of slow scenes in this film. I kind of agree sometimes a little bit, but I do love the scene where he's on the pier looking at the eagles, and he's like, "I can't connect with them. I am not good enough. I'm not worthy of connecting with them." And
yeah, that's when I really felt. I mean, the performance throughout is great, but like in those moments, it was really hitting for me, and I was feeling for Noah. I think they do a great job of like fully immersing you in his emotional arc.
And it's interesting too that Noah has this, I guess, like imposter syndrome to the eagle, not being able to control the birds, right? And meanwhile, May just feels like the world is owed to them. Right,
exactly.
Entitled,
entitled to it, right? And
it was ours. That's our world. Yeah. Like that's our bunker.
And like she does. Like, what is their plan really? Like they're to just wait it out. To like they feel entitled to a world that they can no longer even survive in.
Right, because even if you get all the weapons and whatever in that, you have the satellites up working. Like what? Then what? What are you doing? Like what's the plan?
You can't live on
Invest
unserviced, and
in
that shows
infrastructure.
their greed. That shows like their way of thinking. Okay,
They just want it because they like by right it belongs to them.
it's a perversion of natural laws. Nature doesn't want them on there anymore. It doesn't need them.
Right. Nature's free. There's zebras running about. They're just grazing on
There's
land.
zebras in the Pacific Northwest,
Anyway, so moving ahead a little bit, they decide on the plan, and what's here? Noah tries to recruit his friends Suna and Anaya. Suna agrees because she's in love with him. I wish she was a little more developed, but it's still very sweet. They're a really sweet couple. I'm glad that she wasn't dead or anything.
I have once we get through I have a pitch on to punch up the romance in the movie.
Say it now.
Okay, well, yeah, we get more of with her, but what if there was a love triangle with May? Because interspecies human stuff that like the whole conflict of is this viable? No, I'm being 100% serious that this isn't just like a sicko's yes pitch. Like I think that, like it's a way to like a vehicle for the themes of
return to burden, yeah,
and specifically in this movie of like can this like symbolically can the relationship between humans and apes work, but then if you make it be like a literal relationship, I feel like that just ups the stakes then, and the betrayal like is like doubled, in terms of like, I kind of loved you, fuck, now I can't trust you.
I feel like there was something there you could read into, but not very. Go ahead, Tony.
I was going to say, did you guys know they have almost gone down this route before?
I feel like they've almost gone down, throughout the whole series. They just always like shy away at the last one.
So on Beneath the Planet of the Apes, right?
Yes.
The original plan for the people underground was that they would be half human, half ape hybrids. It got to the point where they actually did like makeup.
They had
tests
makeup for it.
Yeah. So it's really crazy, but you're right also from this in the sense that thematically that would make sense, right? That would be like a good way to bridge that. Yeah, there it is. Perfect. Yeah. There's something really uncanny about that.
Like Jumanji.
Yeah, very much so. But thematically, it would have made sense to have something like this. But I do think that the concept itself is still just very off-putting. I just don't think that people.
It would be thorny and uncomfortable. But I don't know. I think we should have uncomfortable stuff.
I feel like the closest we're gonna get is what Burden did, and even then he had to like because he wanted it to be an out-and-out romance. He wanted to be like kind of like John Carter-y in his original script, a little more John Carter-ish, which I definitely agree with. But like he had to the studio Fox forced him to like put in a female love interest, and all she does in that movie is just stand around looking like concerned that Mark Wahlberg and the female ape keep on like flirting with each other. Like I watched it like last week. The female love interest, human love interest's role in the entire movie is just to look to the side and look like, what the fuck are they doing? Whenever she and whenever Mark Wahlberg and the female ape love interest like just start flirting, and they flirt the entire movie.
Shaking my head so they know I don't agree.
Like she's so petty too. At the very end, like the Mark Wahlberg and Helena Bonham Carter get like this romantic kiss, and then she just comes in like, nope, and like she just plants one on like as revenge. Like, see, that's a real last kiss. Like, nope, he had left out of that one. I think you could cut out all of their romance, and the movie would not change. But yeah, I agree, and I think that you could read some sort of like bond there between them.
He cares for it. I just kind of almost wish it was more explicit and like textual, like make it a thing. Like I'm not asking to go full hybrid or any like even just having some kind of romantic attraction or attachment to each other would like up the stakes, I think.
Definitely
in interesting ways.
So they decide to plant explosive charges across the reef wall, the ocean wall, and they get caught by William H. Macy's Trevathan, who is like, this is a stupid plan. It's not going to work. And you're basically all going to die once Providence finds out. and he decides to run off.
But okay, I get that this has to have. What? Don't say you're gonna go tell on them. Like you're gonna get killed. Like you're all gonna die anyway. I'm just gonna walk away. Back turned. See you guys.
Yeah. And so someone makes this great point in that basically Noah doesn't really kill anyone in the entire movie.
Yes.
And
he's
then
shocked to see this violence.
Yeah. And then May comes out, jumps on him, wraps her legs and arms around him, and chokes him to death with her forearms, like a feral wild beast, which is great. And again, it's one of those things where like you can see the wheels turning in Noah's head. Like, what exactly have I signed up for? What exactly are humans? Because he lives again in a very symbiotic relationship with nature, Eagle Clan, a circle of life, kumbaya, all of that, right?
Well, and then you were just saying, like, yeah, Noah doesn't even directly kill any. All of the obstacles are removed for him by nature. Like Silva drowns, and he refuses to save him in the Batman way of like, I don't have to save you, but like, and then Proximus is, he gets eagled off a cliff. So like he doesn't actually like. Sure, they're singing and calling the eagles, but like he doesn't actually like. It's not like he stabs Proximus or something.
Yeah, but eagles are their liaison to the natural world. So it seems it's more apt. Like Proximus has been rejected by nature,
right?
And so you can see like also the wheels turning at that point, where like nature has rejected human beings. Okay,
yeah.
So why would Trevathan getting killed by May there, right? That also helps with seeing how Noah changes his views on humanity and in relation his views on Proximus, right? Because up till that point, he had seen Proximus mistreating the workers who were pulling the door open, right? So he was leading. There was probably some credence to the human side up until that point,
right? Exactly.
He probably would have been like, okay, maybe let's hear out May, right? But then in that moment, May kills another human, and
he's like, "This is what Proximus was talking about."
Yeah, exactly. Like again, the lawgivers of words. Man will kill his own brother. Okay. Again, you can see like a society forming in this moment.
And that's what's so interesting about Trevathan, because Zaius also says, "I believe from the evidence, I believe his wisdom must walk in hand with his idiocy."
Yeah,
and I feel like Trevathan is the court fool, but also arguably the wisest human.
Exactly. He's both the engineer. He's like he has this little Merlin cave.
Right.
Like again, I feel like Trevathan is
fantasy.
Is the idiocy and the wisdom at the same time. Like he has accepted the inevitability of Apes' dominance. That's something that May just will not accept or cannot.
And yeah, no, it's a great moment, and like they're shocked, like they're frightened. They don't know what to do really, and May has to kind of guide the way. She becomes like the leader of the exposition, and it's a weird dynamic because physically and maybe mentally they're more intelligent and stronger than her, but like she is like kind of leading them and manipulating them through this entire thing. Like she's like, okay, there's knowledge here. Here's where we go. You stay there. And they're just kind of their entire time in the bunker. They have no frame of context or anything. They're just kind of wandering around. They are in awe, but it is a peek into a world that they have no knowledge of. They have no idea or reference for. And so it's I think that scene, and people have probably seen a lot where like they're like looking through the schoolroom, and like this scene's where it was done. They were saying it in context of like showing the seeds for like the future. You see the doll, you see like the planetarium, the planetary mobile thing, and like, but it's more than that. It's like it's showing like the abject horror on their faces the entire time is incredible. I felt like they're like innocent little kids. At the point they're teenagers or kids,
right?
But in that moment, you really feel it. Like they're kids who are kind of stuck in a situation that they really shouldn't be in. They're not young enough for what's going on here.
Well, and they're coming out with like a greater understanding of their world, of their world and what is in it. Like they had no context for any of this before.
Right.
And it's like the biggest sadness and I guess cruelty as well with this revelation, right, is how much cruelty was necessary to create this human world, right? And we've already talked about how the book showed the zoo, right? But like we've seen several times in this movie now is that humans didn't really care for each other and they didn't really care for nature, right? And if we talk about like the larger battle between humans and apes, I think what's going to be interesting is seeing like how the apes try to meld with the rest of the world versus the parasitic nature of humans as they're seen in the series.
Right.
And one thing I realize now is, when they're Noah and Suna and Anai, they're seeing ruins. Okay, they're seeing like the height of human society, and it is ruins. Okay,
right.
And so like at what point, what exactly are they helping? They're seeing like not only seeing, but they're saying like, human society led to its own destruction. And that's what Proxima is saying. Proxima is saying that they destroyed themselves, and now they're seeing the evidence of that. They're seeing like classrooms. They see the baby doll, so they know that. So they have some concept like children were here, and it is abandoned and destroyed. Okay, so again, it's very eerie. It's like, and I think that the archaeological dig scene from the original that's kind of really aping off of is eerie in its own way, because you're seeing like just like the layers of human society. Like you see like the fossilized remains of a guy, and you don't really know.
Any scene in any of these where we're going through the remains of human society, I feel like has like that's the power in any kind of like post-apocalyptic like sci-fi story, but like especially in these, like I like in watching battle when they're going through the old city, these all carry so much weight. You're seeing of like this is what humanity does. This is what it leads to.
And nothing says that more than when given the chance and with no real reason to think so, May finds the armory locker and she takes the gun. Like she didn't like, you make the
she wasn't under immediate threat to
exactly.
Like where the point where it's like I better stock up, but it's more just like I'm not going to be able to trust these apes long term, right?
Exactly. Like they could have escaped according to plan. Okay, that was still the plan. They could have even gone up through the roof like they did before, but she needed the gun.
Humans exert their will over nature through weapons, and like that's what that is. Like she's able to get out of there by pointing a gun, which she shoots an ape, and then gets out of that by using a weapon, and exerting her will over nature.
Yeah, and this horrifies everyone when she kills that guy with one bullet. Okay, and everyone has
everyone. Prox was like, "They got more of those in there."
And Prox is the only one that takes this in strike. He knows. He's like the only one who has a real idea.
He sees the potential. He's like, "Oh, if we
the power of human technology,
we could do some shit."
Exactly.
Were those in there?
And what about this?
What floor did you get those from?
What about this? Because this seems like a bit of an extension of the deleted ending for Rise, or the deleted mid-credit scene for Rise. It's on the Blu-ray, where you're supposed to have a scene where like after like they skip into the redwoods and everything, you would find Koba like picking up a police officer's shotgun and loading it and cocking it, and then they would end there. That'll be the mid-credit scene. And like I think that was too soon for that. I'm glad they deleted it, because then you have this right where you're seeing like just like what exactly the stakes are if they get their hands on this kind of thing. If you saw Koba do that already, it wouldn't mean as much. It wouldn't have meant as much for Dawn, and it wouldn't mean as much right now. We're like,
well, and then it wouldn't start. It wouldn't make any sense why you could start off Dawn in a place of where you're not. You would already be like, Koba's a problem. Like, I saw him cock a shotgun. Like, we gotta do something about him.
And yeah, no. So Noah realizes that May only cares for herself at this point, because she's pointing the gun without any care of civilians or anything like that. She even risked Noah's mother's life.
To her, all of them are a threat at this point. I feel like she doesn't distinct. Like she worked with Noah and his friends out of it was they were useful
necessity.
But then she got what she needed, and now she doesn't like trust or care about them.
No. Like you see a little bit of regret, but if they die, that's better net for her overall.
Right. And Endgame, she really just cares about humanity. Like she probably has some attachment to Noah in that time, just because they were on the road. Like they've like he saved her neck a couple of times, but like she doesn't like actually care.
No. So she blows the dam, and all the apes start to die, and it's horrifying because they're little animals. They don't know any better. They really don't. A lot of them were slaves. A lot of them they didn't want to be there, and all of them are dying at this point. And you see him fight Silva for the last time, which is great. Shades of Avatar, Way of Water. And it's not the entire thing. Like I love it. And I love the way he kills Silva. Basically, Silva it's classic henchman way where you use their own strength against them. Use their own
right.
Silva
He's too big.
He's too big. He's too big. He drowns by getting stuck between some pipes. And they escape, and Proximus has one last beatdown with Noah before the Eagle clan reclaims their own right over nature, their own bond over nature, because it's their symbiosis, it's their connection, it's their merging of nature. They're living naturally, they're cohabitating with nature. If they were imposing their will above nature, the eagles probably wouldn't have helped them, because you need to have power to exert, and in that moment they're powerless. But because they're friends of nature, they're aligned with it, they're able to help them.
I feel like that's why early on you establish, like, as a part of the ritual, they don't take all the eggs from the nest, because like they respect and understand of like, no, this is symbiotic. We want to be working in tandem and cooperate. We're not just going to steal and harvest the land, like and
that's probably what Noah thought and imagined with humans as well, a symbiotic relationship.
Right.
Different species. Noah knows that different species can work together.
Right.
But in that moment, he realizes that no, you can't work with human beings. Okay, they will kill you. They will kill you if they get the chance. They only work in their own benefit.
Like she was one of the nice ones, and she betrayed us. So like, what the fuck?
Exactly. And so Proximus falls to his death. I wish we had seen some blood splatter. We really should. Even if these are more for kids movies used to have blood. Kids movies used to have blood. All right, go ahead.
We've moved on from the makeup, I know, right? But maybe we can go back to dummies in movies, right? We should have had the giant monkey dummy thrown off the cliff, and that would have been great.
Yeah. Just have a couple of extras, not be CGI, just be something.
Yeah,
dummy technology has gotten so good, and you can also accentuate it with effect. But like, I always think of that scene where Kenneth Branagh gets tossed off the boat in Tenet. I was like, that just looks like you toss Kenneth Branagh off and he's flopping off. Yeah, like that's a good dummy.
Exactly. We just see something where like he hits a rock and then flops down. Something like that. I love that when it happens whenever a bad guy falls off of like a ledge or a cliff. Anyway, skips ahead. They decide to make their way home. The last surviving tribe of apes on that coast. Hundreds of apes have died. Which is horrifying. You saw the kingdom. It was at least a couple of dozen acres. So that is really, really horrifying.
May's a mass murderer. She's not good.
At least because we see them climbing up the ruins of the ship. So presumably, at least some of them were able to.
Oh, so yeah, some of them got out, but a lot died.
And we see some time. Go ahead.
Oh no! It said just in the cave alone when she unleashes the ocean.
Anyway, moving ahead, we are at the final moment here where sometime later the Eagle clan has started to rebuild, and Noah is the new Eagle Master. He's the new head of the aviary, presumably, and he's wearing Rocca's Caesar medallion. And May decides to come over to say bye, even though she started all this mess by going there in the first place.
Pretty ballsy of her.
Exactly. And so they have a final conversation about the dominion of the world, basically. And May says that it's a human world. This is the human place. Human technology is for humans. Human knowledge is for humans. And it's a man's world. Okay, it's a man's world. And
I love the shot of you see her holding the gun behind her back.
Yes. I love that. I felt like this. My body responded.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like a twist in my gut because
immediately following that, it's like, is it Noah or her that says about like a trust? Like, can we trust each other? And it's like, no, we can't because you're fucking holding a gun.
Yeah, you're holding a gun. Like he's there. He's just there having a talk with her. Like he's pleading with her for a sense of like like a bond of like a sense of
which is very
mutual
measured of him
understanding.
because he saw her killed so many apes. So like I would have had a weapon on her.
Yeah,
Be like,
and
he's
right. He's right. Like, what is for apes? Like, what is for this society that is their own? Like knowledge, like speech. Is
right.
that for apes?
He says, should we go back to silence? Is that what you want? Do you want us to be in captivity? Like,
because language is
yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because language is humans as well. Like all of that. Like even if they're like creating their own society, their own ideas for society, a lot of that is rooted in human intelligence.
Yeah, it's all on the bones of human civilization.
Exactly. And so that's probably one of the best lines in any of the movies. That like, what is for apes? Like at what point do we cross like the Rubicon of like what apes can create for themselves? And you get that because you get an original.
Why do you get to decide that?
Exactly.
Fucking human.
You get that original in all the movies, right? It's like what point are apes like their own beings? Because like in the original, you see Taylor start to like make the parallel between like ape society is the same as human society, and then apes are as equally as destructive and violent as humans.
Right.
There's no difference between them. Like apes are always under the thumbs. Escape and conquest. Apes are under the thumb of human beings, under human whims, human demands, and battle is like, can they coexist? And this is like exactly like what exactly can we partition, or what exactly can we collaborate with, integrate?
And giving you just the right amount of hope, even though we pretty much know to a certain degree where this is headed, of like, well, maybe apes can do better, like can we break these cycles? Like is it just inevitable that they will just become the next humans in terms of self-destructive cycles?
It comes to my favorite part of here, and this is both like my most heartwarming bit, but also like the most like just heartbreaking bit for me. I started cheering up at this as well. When he like rips off Caesar's necklace and he gives it to her and says important. Like it's a parallel or a callback to early in the movie where like he gives like Nova like his mother's blanket, mother's shawl. It says important because like it's important because the memory of what it means. Like this is important because this is my mother's, and this is important not because of Caesar's words, because of Rocca, who believed in Caesar's words.
Right.
Like, Noah doesn't believe in Caesar's words. He doesn't. Not the end of the movie. He does not believe in them. He believes in what Rock believed. He believed that they were important to Rocca. He doesn't have like a come to Jesus moment. He doesn't be like, oh, Caesar was right. We should follow Caesar's example. To Noah's mind, Caesar was probably naive, but he understands that like believed in mercy and empathy.
Right. And Rocca opened my mind to like the greater world, and I want to honor him this way.
Not honor Caesar.
Although he's wasted on it. May probably toss that shit as soon as she was out of view. She's like, I don't care about that.
Part of the reason that lands so powerfully is because we in the audience know that she has a gun behind her.
Yeah.
Noah doesn't know that. So like even as he's offering this gesture of peace and
it's falling on dead ears.
He's so desperate to try and make any of this work, like
we know that humans, like I said, earlier in the show, like humans just cannot wrap their heads around the idea that they could ever share the earth with another sentient species, because for the entirety of human
we've never done that.
Never happened. Although like anthropologically it did, because we shared it with like Neanderthals and other
with them.
But that's prehistoric, so there's like been no period within recorded history where humans have had to question their own supremacy. So like that's what is, I think, gives this moment its texture, is that this is the fundamental crisis that humanity has never had to face before, which it still can't quite figure out even 3 centuries on from its demise.
And like that's what hurts the most, because at that moment, like that is the final nail in the coffin for Caesar. For all that he struggled for, all that he fought for, all that he died for, is like a final desperate plea from an ape to a human girl that she doesn't give a shit about.
Right.
All right. So like, and so like that's why I posted like this is up like as a meme, right? Like a edit of like the ending of Barry Lyndon. Like all of them are equal now. For all the people that fought against me, they're all dead. They're all equal now. That's it. Like Caesar's message is that he's in death. He has no more importance than like the guy that was in Jacobs, the guy who was at Hearts of the Lab, or Dreyfus, or Woody Harrelson's character.
he's purely a symbol, and symbols can be repurposed or used for propaganda, either
or forgotten.
Right. It's the original message is not even present.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the destruction of that. That's when people say like this is like one of the more upbeat, optimistic endings, I'm like, did you see that? Like the entirety of this movie is just the slow decay of optimism itself.
Yeah, I would agree. This is more closer to the cynicism of the original movies than even though there's plenty of dark stuff in those. I mean, war starts with Caesar's kid getting killed, but like it's still like thematically and philosophically, I feel like this in Kingdom we're getting kind of back to that ethos of the original movie of like examining like, can these structures and cycles be overcome? Like, is this just we're just destined to just keep repeating this?
And again, that's what the original plan for battle was, an ever-ending cycle. And
one thing I do want to say on that note about this not being as optimistic of an ending, I agree, but I also have a counterpoint there, just in the sense that I do think that Noah's ultimate, like where he ends up in his conversation with May, it's a difference in leadership. He's trying to lead with empathy rather than the aggression that we've seen through Proximus and soon to be the humans. So while I don't think that he's exactly evoking what Caesar has done, I think this movie is trying to say like the energy is right. Noah's getting the energy right of leading with kindness first. There's not to say that.
Yeah, there's the tinge of hope of like maybe Noah can get this right and lead with more empathy and kindness. But in terms of the whole human ape relationship, I think it's very cynical and bleak in terms of like this is never going to be tenable. Like it's a non-starter.
And even like this is sort of a trilogy reminder, right? Yes. We're going to see things change and go, right? So
I feel like Noah is going to become more cynical as this goes along.
I mean, at least, like I agree that it's somewhat cynical, but I actually think it's more tragic, which I think is a different emotional register.
Sure,
you're right.
Cynicism is bleak, and I mean, so is tragedy, but tragedy is devastating, like in the way cynicism is not. Like I think that tragedy is the sort of prevailing sentiment of Apes as a
because it's tragic because the movie and Noah and you want it to have been to work of like, shit, could we have made this work? Like, yeah.
Right. I mean, that's why it's so powerful when at the end of the beginning or the end at the I'll try it again. Evoking the Alpha Omega, but at the end of the original, when Zeus responds to Zira and says he'll find his destiny, like that's the potency of tragedy, is that is the destiny of humanity. Like that's what makes it this like cynicism, which it is, but it's also deeply tragic. And I think that that's going to be the end.
I would agree with you. It's more tragic. Like cynicism is the end of Beneath, where it's fuck everything. I'm blowing up the earth.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And just again, I want to bring up the lines there where he's like, again, apes will rebuild, apes will learn, apes will become stronger. And like that's good in a way. Like, he understands the necessary tools to, keep his society safe now that he knows about the greater context of the world around him. Now that he has knowledge of like what's actually out there and what can, harm his people. But like, the audience knows that, just that in itself, becoming stronger, becoming more learned, that's put them on a path of, becoming dominant themselves, of creating a dominion of themselves. Like everything he says, like I mentioned, is everything Proximus said in creating a kingdom.
Yep.
He's at the building blocks of one of his own, whether he likes it or not.
And I think we see the humans when they reestablish contact. That's why the last scene is so powerful, because it's like there's a lot going on in that last sequence where it's cutting between the humans reestablishing contact, but also like Noah gazing at the stars and recognizing, which I think really perfectly captures like the wonder and the terror of
exactly
right, because it's scary. Once the satellites, you see them activate, and they where is it? Is it Indiana? Is it somewhere?
We're in it.
Yeah, but you're like, oh fuck, they found more humans, and that where's that leading? That's not going to be good,
Exactly, and so is he wondering like. Just the last two shots, really. You have May looking like hope, optimism, like it's a working for her. Like she's done what she thinks is right, and she's glad, she's happy, like she's full of hope and optimism. And you have Noah, and he's showing Suna like the observatory. Her mind is being blown. Okay, but he's like looking at the scars, and the first scene, he was all like wide-eyed, and now he's like just concerned. He's worried. He's fearful because he knows that the world is bigger than it really is, and that just how is he going to handle that? How is he going to handle that?
I can't wait to find out. I mean, I'm very excited to see where these go.
Yeah, but I want to talk about the kind of last couple of moments before we go into like just kind of where this series could go based on the original films.
I mean, I've given this way too much thought and like writing screenplays in my head for like what could happen. I think that a lot of it depends on whether Rocka returns, because I think that's going to be the real variable as to how Noah's story comes about. But I do think that it's going to follow a similar trajectory to the like Reeves Wyatt trilogy, in the sense that like humanity and apes are still kind of figure out how is this system going to work. But I do suspect that at the end of it, apes will be one step further along the dominance line. Like I think we'll see progress as to like where like we'll be several significant steps closer than to the original film.
I think this is going to be one long trilogy remake of Battle, basically, because now we have the bunkers, now we have the remnants of humanity, and they're like on a collision course of ape kind.
In the way that the Caesar trilogy was kind of like extrapolating, like if you made Conquest into 3 movies of like we take those ideas of him leading the apes to freedom in the uprising and stretch it out. I think you could like get a lot of extrapolating the ideas in Battle.
Exactly. And we already see that here, but what I really like is if they do like introduce like a lawgiver or like a proper one or in the Secret Skulls, I think that this really kind of neatly like has really kind of folds in like a thing that I always wondered about with the originals, where like you have Caesar, who should be like their deified sort of like kind of godhead. But in the originals, like everyone's like lawgiver. You're
like, oh, the lawgiver's above Caesar? That's
exactly like how is it like? I feel like
there's a thing in the original mythology, because when Cornelius is explaining to the vets, he's like, well, actually, it was Aldo that first uttered the word no. Yep. It's not until like Conquest rewrites the lore that we get Caesar as because the original like. In the original like mythology was Aldo, which I always found really interesting. That
he basically stole his destiny. He basically stole
it's like
destiny.
Did they just speed up by coming back? They just kind of sped up and like altered the time, like because it's like yes, the end result will be the same, but like we're getting these different like echoes of like the ways it can play out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, TJ. Like that note specifically, the concept that Aldo's fate essentially gets circumvented by Battle. That's why I think that Battle has that more optimistic ending in my books, right? Because I think that there is a level of course correction that happens there. And I think what's going to be interesting with this West Ball series is seeing if there is any kind of course correction, if there is going to be a lead towards rectifying things with humans or not. And Elvis, you had pointed the question of where we think it may or may not go. For me, I wouldn't be too surprised if the human conflict is taken care of within the next entry, and then we move fully onto ape versus ape conflict for the rounding out of the trilogy. Main reason I say this is because I don't really see a lot of, I don't see longevity within the human forces. Like they don't have as much numbers with those things, right? And we're now reaching the point where apes are getting more, sophisticated. So there's going to be a little more political intrigue.
They don't have numbers, but they're like cockroaches, man. Just when you think you're getting rid of the humans, they're like, oh, there's more of them? Where the fuck they come from?
Humans are parasites.
That's like the theme of the movie. They're parasites.
And my final note on this before someone else can hypothesize, it may sound strange, but I do think that space will play some form or role in the future because we have not done we haven't gotten any time travel yet. We haven't gotten any space yet, but I think that it's coming very soon, sooner than we think.
I mean, Rise pointedly, they obviously didn't have a plan where they didn't have a 9-movie plan when they did Rise, but like we do see in the back, the TV in the background did say the Icarus, they lost contact with the Icarus, so like that's happening. That's coming at some point.
It's in the back pocket for whenever they want to throw it out there, for sure.
I mean, the timeline's so elastic that they can kind of like play with it in whatever different way they want to, but like it's coming in some form.
I think the most creative thing would be to finish out this 9-film series by just ending it at the start of Planet of the Apes, like the 1968 film, and then this whole franchise
it's a
just been
full
one giant
circle.
loop. Yeah,
yeah, I love that.
I personally would like the last trilogy to be like the formation of the Cornelius Thera Zaius dynamic, like that. That's my dream, is that we get like the first movie like is the young Zaius, and then the second and third are Cornelius.
Young Zaius. That'd give me like a TV show.
No,
Young Sheldon. Young Zaius.
So I won't mention this, but I think it would be really great to find a movie to be like the original film, but from the perspective of the apes. You know, like you know, Ursus and Zaius and Cornelius are like, what is the take on it? Like they have someone in the background, you know, maybe Taylor's in the background or Taylor Quinlan's in the background, and it's there like because in the original film, the stuff that really interests me the most is just seeing like the ins and outs of like how ape society functions. Like you have them talking about affirmative action, and you have them talking about like societal strife. You have all that kind of stuff in that film, and I think that it'd be really good to just have like as a drama, and then there's this thing going back in the background that comes and that kind of launches a missile into it, you know. But as for this series, I don't know. I feel like it'd be really cool. Okay, is if we kind of have the human stuff be like again like Battle, the birth of the mutants. I want to see the mutants. I think
let's
it's their time.
Go underground.
It's their time. Okay, and I feel like another thing that would be really cool is that we've had of course the virus and everything. I think that including more humans, killing bunkers across the country and all that stuff. It's like someone mentioned this, and I thought like, well, in my conception, I was watching the film, they were like, having fallout, having nuclear war was more like, and having it be intentional, having been out of humankind maliciousness was a little bit more like poignant than having it be like a virus, something like that. And like I kind of agree, but I kind of think it'd be really cool if like any kind of resistance, because you have like apes in their like Bronze Stone Age period right now. If it like, how do they fight against like let's see, humans that possibly have control over like nuclear warheads in space or whatever, right? What if the humans just killed each other?
I mean, I would guess that if they're going to introduce the nuclear option, I think what's going to happen is that the humans in their effort to like destroy apedom will inadvertently destroy themselves. Like, right. Watch. Like, I could even just be like, I mean, the thing about it, like if they wanted to really go full on Cold War terror thing, is that just one power mad human could, maybe there's like a prologue in the very last of this trilogy where like, we have like a solitary guard that's guarding some sort of nuclear stockpile, which is sort of the conceit behind this fantasy series that I read ages ago. And then at the end, he unleashes the apocalypse because he's just gone crazy. Like he's just the last human guarding this stockpile of weapons. Like that would be very powerful, I think.
And like all the other thing is like, you can only just see apes against drones. Because like, humans can't go out. Like, what would they do?
They don't have the numbers. Yeah,
exactly. So what about drones? Drone warfare.
That'd be like very like kinetic would be the word, and then it would also just be like
a lot of visual contrast because you have these apes on horses, and then the most unnatural thing, which is a drone. Like. I mean that sounds very cool from an action standpoint. I want these movies to be like as thrilling as like the action can be in these. Like it's important to remember a big chunk of the first movie is like a legal drama of them debating what to do, like having a trial for Taylor, and like philosophical and ethical debates are like the juiciest parts of these movies for me. Like in Escape, when the president is debating with his science advisor, basically having like the "would you kill baby Hitler" debate. Like that. That's like that's one of the most exciting things in the series to me. Like
exactly. But so I think that like you could definitely have like a human subplot with like May and everything, without really touching ape stuff. I think the ape stuff, if we had to do this trilogy, I do really want it to be about the religious aspect. Because you do have Evil Clan, which let's just say that they're our focus point moving forward. Evil Clan, community of nature. You have them, the more spiritual kind of thing with eagles, with nature, with their environment, with wildlife. And you have this person, he's seeing the power of technology, of human science, of human aggression. And so you have like the original Secret Skulls, all that kind of stuff, where like, in the original film, you have the Zaius, who is not only the minister of science, but the leader of the faith, keeper of the faith, right? So like I feel like that's the perfect segue to that kind of like thing where like you have a religious society that keeps control of science by stating that it's like has governance over science. I feel like all this stuff that they're seeing right now with Noah and everything is how you get to a place where like we have to keep reins over what people know, because human thought, human ingenuity, like this is for humans, not for apes. And so Noah could take that literally. That is for humans. It should never be for apes because it only brings.
He wants to avoid
chaos.
that. Yeah.
It only brings destruction.
Coming from the place of now at the end, like his eyes have been opened and he sees how big the world is. So then maybe his arc is like, no, we need to suppress more because like we should. If we do know more about this, then we're just gonna become them.
Exactly. And so like that point where like they even go to the point where like nothing can fly. Like nothing that you can create can fly. So like even like a simple paper airplane is impossible to think of having it flight. So like how do you get to that point? And so I think that Noah being like disillusioned, being so like broken down, that'd be a really interesting way to see this go. I kind of want that. I want to see it to become the beginning of an ape religion.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I like that.
Yep, me too.
I'm here for apes doing anything.
Exactly.
Like rewatching all the movies with my friend. Like we should just start randomly pitching like different different genres and like what if those had apes? And like I would watch every version of that. Like just apes doing stuff is great.
They haven't smoked cigarettes on the series yet, right? Like I'm surprised that's money in the bank right there.
He smoked a cigar in Escape.
Right,
yes.
right.
Yeah,
not
he did.
All right,
not a cigarette.
No, a cigarette. Good.
They don't let you just smoke and give like mainstream kids movies. I mean, I don't know. Like they're probably not be like they couldn't even let. I remember Colin Farrell saying in the Batman he wanted Penguin to have a cigar, and they're like, no, which is so dumb. He's a mob boss club owner. Like he would be smoking.
Right, literally. Doesn't he usually have a cigarette holder? Isn't it like
exactly? Yeah, a cigarette holder.
Yeah. I think they're gonna let him smoke in the HBO series because it's HBO. So they'll be like, whatever, he can smoke.
So I want to share one last thing before anyone else has any thoughts they want to bring up. I saw the craziest thing where someone was like, no, man, here's what's going to happen. The next one is going to be Planet of the Apes, and the third one, the Westball trilogy, is going to be Beneath Planet of the Apes, and then the 7, 8, and 9 are going to be remakes of Escape and The Conquest and Battle. And like, what are you thinking?
I think doing straight up remakes is the least interesting creative way forward. Like, I think I want to start seeing the seeds of those things plant. Like, I want to see, the mutants and that how we get to that in Beneath. But like, I don't need to actually literally see that all happen again.
But what made me funny is like seeing like, oh man, 7, 8, or 9 be Escape and Conquest and Battle. When like fucking Dawn and War are remakes already of many of the things
we've already seen. It would be so repetitive to we've already seen these.
But he was indignant. This guy was indignant of that it was insane. But people like that. We don't want the mutants. We don't want anything like that. No, it's what gives. I
don't want the weirder stuff. Give me the weird shit.
It's what gives it texture. That's what makes it such a fruitful sci-fi universe environment to play around in.
Also, if we're just talking about like larger sci-fi franchises, right? Like, let's just call a spade. Planet of the Apes is like one of the few like consistently original franchises that we keep getting, right? And when I say original, I mean like each entry is doing something different. There are some, echoes of the past.
It's not just the same movie 20 times again. Like they're iterating on similar themes and ideas, but I mean the closest is the first part of Beneath is kind of a remake of the first, which is why that's the least interesting part of Beneath is when they're just doing it with not Taylor. I'm like, okay, I don't care about this.
Well, not Taylor, and also retconning the hell out of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
One thing that does kind of disappoint me about this film, and it kind of speaks to kind of a larger thing about this franchise, I do think that the Serling feel, right? The concept of like those weight and stuff, I think we have almost lost it with this movie. Like we're all like Serling is out the door almost, right? And I say that not because it's, I'm not trying to say that the thematic concerns in this movie are not as interesting or anything like that. Also, my headphones just died, so just give me 1 sec. 1 sec.
No, but anyway, I totally agree.
Serling, I just think that thing is missing, right? And the moment that we start to rehash everything, right, is the moment that we're going to lose every magic piece in this franchise. They need to keep evolving and keep on moving.
Right. I want us to thematically get back to some of that stuff, but I don't want to like actually literally rehash the old movies.
Exactly. So like you could say that like, you know, we're maybe focusing too much on prequel stuff if you do like to like this is how Ape Society became Ape Society, but you know, managing that stuff can still be interesting if you put a lot of like societal context to it. And I think that
make it very political, make it overtly like a reflection of now, which is what the older movies were.
Yeah, I know I love, you know, the Burden movie, but if I do agree that it's not interesting because it is just like a straight blockbuster. It's got a straight blockbuster plot. It has, you know, some social commentary in it, which I do find really funny in the way that a lot of the sillier social commentary in the original movies are kind of funny. Like I feel like it feels like a movie that was written by Zira's nephew. That's how that's how the Burn remake plays. You know, like you never trust anyone over 40.
I'm gonna think about that when I rewatch them. Like this is written by Zira's nephew.
Like I don't trust you. I'm a youth. I'm counterculture, Taylor. You can't tell me what to do. That's the level that the remake kind of handles social commentary, and I enjoy it. But you know, I do agree that you do have to keep just more of a wryness in these is missing, because I think we use mythic, we use epic, we use kind of grand, but like the original films aren't really mythic or grand in that same way. They aim toward it. It is seeing like a continuing story, but they're much more episodic and much more fables, much more like fables than anything like else. And
I mean, literally in battle, you have John Huston like reading like like a bedtime story.
It is a fable
reciting to the children. Yeah,
there are morals to it, and like this one, yes, you can see the morals through the themes, through like the tones of these, but you're missing that kind of like that really kind of pinpointedness of everything.
You know what else you're missing? A twist.
Yeah.
No twist in this movie.
And like, well, it's what I'm not saying, and I'm not saying this submissively because I would like there to be something. I'm just like spitballing. Like, what twist can we do at this? Like, we know.
That's true.
Yeah,
we already know everything, so
we know where it's going. But we do and we don't know everything. Like, well, and maybe this is just because I'm dumb. Like I said, I didn't see the May think. I was like, oh yeah, she's just gonna be like a dumb Nova-esque human, and I didn't see the final trailer. So when she spoke, I was like, whoa, okay, all right, I didn't see that coming. Like the whole film structure, if anything, was a twist to me because I was just like, I knew there were going to be some apes in a kingdom going in. Like I didn't really know the whole shape of it.
Anyway, so anyone want to talk about any of the original sequels? You know, because I don't know, we've kind of glossed over them a little bit as we're moving toward Kingdom.
I mean, I feel like I already touched on like my favorite things from those movies and like how we see them reflected in the newer movies. But yeah, just reiterate, like if anyone hasn't seen the like, especially Escape, Conquest, and Battle, like check the like find the uncut version of Conquest and see, like, you gotta at least see the original ending one or the uncut ending once.
I whenever I rewatch it, I'm always shocked at how bloody it is. Like
you see like straight up headshots of a cop shooting apes in the face. I'm just like,
no, you had Breck have like security guards like grab an ape and hold its head in place so he can just get a clean shot of it.
Yeah, why you have a close up of the face getting shot? And like,
exactly. And then like at the end, the apes start stacking security guard bodies one after the other. It
has that bright red like 70s almost giallo blood, which I love. Like it looks it's
gnarly.
There's very stark, great imagery. Like, and I love that so much of the climax of Conquest is at night, and like you kind of just see like. Basically, it's filmed so darkly in some scene. The cops, you're just seeing like you're not even seeing their faces. It's just like the outlines of them holding these guns and their riot shields. And
yeah,
it's like,
I mean, my favorite moments in all the originals are when we come closest to the sublime. Whether it's seeing the Statue of Liberty, whether it's seeing Landon with his lobotomy, whether it's seeing the ruins of New York City, and we see James Francisco Brent.
I can't remember his character's name because he's just like I just call him not
Brent. You don't know Brent.
Brent. What a nerd.
Brent and Nova running across, like their figures are so small against the like the New York Stock Exchange or the library,
right.
the vastness of ruins, or in Conquest when like the cops are there and we're sort of positioned with them, but we can hear the apes screaming in the background, like we can hear them coming, but we can't see them yet. Those are the moments that I enjoy the most.
Yeah. What I enjoy, again, bring up mutants again. I love the idea of like just how, and it's why I love humans in this series. And when people say like there's no purpose of humans anymore, it's like the mutants, because like they're like the perfect flip side of the coin to the apes. Like these apes and the mutants are like the end result of all humanity's idiocy. Because you have the mutants, they're like that whole Cold War era, we got
specific and idiosyncratic. It's not just one thing. It's not just their doomsday cult that worship a bomb. They worship a bomb. They have psychic powers, and they have melted, radiated face. Like it's like all these elements.
The bomb. Like I reveal my inmost self to the bomb. Like
exactly.
When you read like stuff from the 50s and you see how intimately like atomic anxieties and religious fervor were twined together, like this. We've lost, like, I don't think that most people I certainly didn't before I did all the research, but like, that's something that has a lot of texture and basis in like how post-war society really did think of the bomb as a godlike figure.
It's so, like kind of abstract to us. Like we know that nukes can kill everything, but it's not like it's not looming over us in the same way.
Exactly. Right. But like what I really like is that whole perversion, or like not perversion, just actually it's an extension of like the whole, we have to keep power. We have to keep destructive power as a deterrent. Okay, like this is a bomb. We keep it armed because it's a peaceful deterrent. We have mind controlling powers that can destroy you. Yeah, for peace.
We're making you kill each other or fight to the death for peace. Like that. Yes. That's like
this is to keep peace. This is for self defense and for like I love that. Like these are peaceful weapons. That what the Ongaro says that these are peaceful weapons. We don't kill you. There's detachment. Like again, the bomb itself is detachment. Like something like Oppenheimer did. We don't. They just have like the atom bombs destroy Japan, right? And we don't see that. It's that distance. We are distance. The fact that we can distance ourselves from the violence that we're doing means it's peaceful. Means that it's just. Okay, right. And that's why I love about mutants, and that's why I want to see. I want to see that develop as well. Like we're talking about religious angle right here. Not only is like Ape Society religious, but mutant society, the remnants of humanity religious as well. I think that if they kind of hone in on that, that would be like a really fantastic way to go through.
I think it is totally possible to marry the two. Like we're getting more mythic with Noah's story, but then also like Tony said, get back to kind of like the surlingness of like the overt politicism of the movie. Like I feel like we can marry those two. Like they should be able to. I hope they can. I would be very interested in seeing that.
I think that like because Serling always talked about power structures, right? That's what his work is about. Is like who had the power, who didn't have the power, and how did the people without power express those feelings that they had, right?
Right.
And like that goes hand in hand with wars. Like honestly,
that's what all this is about is power. Yeah, like who has the power? Humans, apes, and which apes? Why? How are they using the power?
Yeah, over each other, over nature, over themselves. And so Kingdom. If we weren't getting another one, I think that the fact that it brings up these ideas, even in the ways that it does,
it's very compelling as its own story. I don't see it as just set. Like yes, it is setting up. You can go in a lot of directions from this, but like yeah, I think it is very satisfying as its own story.
Yeah, because like right now it's a coda to the Caesar trilogy. It's like again we're seeing Caesar's destruction, but we're also seeing like. I think in a better way than Rise, the seeds of this new world and what kind of that means, like what kind of power that holds,
and the different possible interpretation, like basically different paths forward that you kind of see teased of like, well, we see what Proximus does with Caesar's message. We see what humans want to do, and it's like, what's Noah's path forward?
And so like that's why I don't really believe when people say like, oh, this was originally meant to be like a reboot, because I think that was just like. Maybe someone misheard something.
It's so explicitly tied to the end of like we start with unless that was just something added. It didn't feel like it was like just a reshoot at it last minute.
Because they mentioned like but when they originally announced, people were like it was announced as like a new Planet of the Apes reboot. But then like a month or two later, it was like no, it actually is going to be a direct sequel to War. And like And like,
it feels very much like that. It is just picking up the baton of.
I don't really see how they could have shifted gears in a way. I think that maybe either someone misheard, but
I
also
think it was like a little bit of a game of telephone.
I mean, exactly. People refer to Sex and the City as a period piece, so I don't think words have meaning.
But on one end, I do think that if it was right, if it was meant to be a reboot, I feel like this maybe could have started life as an alternate sequel to Conquest.
Well, reboot in the way that like it can be a jumping, like it is a direct
like a
sequel
Halloween
to War, but like if you haven't seen the other ones, you could jump into this as a starting point.
Yeah.
I mean, but reboot, at least as traditionally elaborated, means a rebooting of the mythology.
Like you reboot the continuity, yes.
Yeah,
but like you said, what do words mean anymore? I don't know.
I've got a horribly cynical take on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that if it was a reboot and not connected to the circus movies, they probably would have made a television show. I think they probably would have just done this whole movie as one season, and then they would have, kept going. I think that you need to have that. I just
got chills. You saying that I was imagining an apocalyptic version where we got a streaming ape series, and not like if they want to do ancillary ape things in some kind of non-movie. I'm not like opposed to that, but I don't want it to replace movies. Like, give me. I
want to see a cartoon again. I think the cartoon,
not with Iger moving away from TV. Like, I just don't think I don't think that's likely to be in the cards anytime in the near future.
Especially the way these movies, like, I mean, sure, we have expensive, like, epic TV, like fantasy and sci-fi shows now, but those are not.
Oh, he's on again. Go ahead, Tony.
I was going to add to what he was just saying there about that, in the sense that any of these massive properties that make the jump from movies to TV, they cheapen their entire franchise. They ruin the entire thing. They ruin the integrity of everything. Look at what just happened to Marvel, right? That's literally what caused their downfall, was the quick proliferation of television shows. The fact that Planet of the Apes is so firmly something that is cinematic, and it is always cinematic. Like, even if there's something that's a problem
not
here,
enough the budget,
yeah, they've got the budget for it, and they've got the tone for it right. The question before about if Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was a standalone film, if it would work well that way, I do think so. I think that this movie is just like a solid, like, good time at the movies, separate from any kind of grander thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just the idea of cheapening the franchise would be a massive mistake, honestly. And the fact that we've got Dune has got a TV series coming out. We've got the Batman Penguin series. I think that all of those are kind of looking bad. We'll see.
Oh, he's gone again. Anyway, we're waiting for a minute. I think we pretty much said all we need to say. I even squeezed in a little bit, like, what I have to say about the Predator remake. I just want to say, I do think the ending makes sense. That's just me about the Predator remake. I do think the ending makes sense. It's a first in, last out situation. Okay, that's how the wormhole works, and that's why I really like the ending. I like the ending of the Predator remake a lot.
I like seeing Lincoln as an ape.
Yeah, me too.
That image.
Like, why? Okay, so I've tried to find like a good like lawgiver statue. I want it, but like no one got that makes not like little miniature one. But no one makes one that's good, and no one makes a Thade, Abraham Lincoln Thade statue. I'd buy one in a second. But I do like it because like a way it works, I think that it's kind of Sterlingishly, cruel in a way, because like not only did he leave like love and heroism behind on the ape planet, right? But now that even if he wanted to get back by the rules of the time warp, wormhole thing, yeah, if he tried to go back, he'd either end up thousands of years in the past or thousands of years in the future. He's screwed. Like he's in a no-win situation at the end of Burden remake.
You're talking about the end of Burden? Yeah, I don't know. I need to rewatch it because the idea of it is appealing to me, especially that end of like it's very cruel to that version of Taylor of like, yeah, you're fucked, buddy.
And I will concede that it is closer to Pierre Bou's novel, in which like the Taylor he's not on Earth, but he does return on Earth. It's suddenly turned upside down and is like almost arrested by a cop or something, and then takes off in the spaceship again. So it is in that sense a little closer to
I need to read the book. I need to read the book. I haven't
Yeah,
read the book.
I need to read the book. I need to watch the cartoon, which
I
is
tried to
barely
read
as boring.
about a decade ago, and it's very much mid-century sci-fi French,
Okay.
which
The
is
cartoon,
very dry.
the cartoon is on YouTube and good
It's also
rips.
on DVD.
Yeah.
What
That's how-
about
yeah.
the live? Have any of us seen the live action series they did after Battle? That was like a season, right? That they did.
It
that?
was, and I bought it for my dad, but I've never seen it. I keep meaning.
But it
to.
has Roddy in it.
I mean,
Yes.
that's what it has to treat
Oh.
because he's like the pinnacle of ape. I mean, I love all the especially in these new movies. I feel like even though the technique is completely different, I post about the sport. Like I feel like they're still studying from the Roddy McDowell school of ape acting in terms of
Anyone
like
who
the
does this,
certain way you can emote. You know.
anyone who does this is definitely trying to ape Roddy.
Yeah. The twitching that he does. He does so much good twitching in battle.
You know, people say like, you know, everyone like people the actors and everything weren't you know giving a shit in battle, but like nah, Roddy's giving 100% in that
He
movie.
seems pretty locked in.
Yeah, like at the end when he and I was gonna say Koba Aldo have like their final fight, it's like it's tragic. Like everything about that last couple
Or the last scenes of him with his son, with Cornelia. Like there's, I don't know, that shit hits.
You know, it's and again, I do love battle. I think that battle, if you know if the new trilogy pans out like it is, I think battle is gonna end up like required.
It's only gonna increase. Like buy battle stock now because it's only going up.
Yeah, I think it's gonna become recommended reading because again, we were talking about trust and everything. I posted a clip from battle, and it seems very relevant because like again, McDonald is saying like, what is the role of human beings in your society, in your kingdom?
Right. The whole crux of the conversations he has with McDonald of like, you guys want equality, but we need to trust. Like, can I trust you to let you be equal? Like, I don't
exactly.
know.
And then that's the end of this movie with Noah and May. Like again, trust.
I mean, you straight up can't trust May.
You can't trust May.
Fucker.
Throw off her bridge the next time you see her. Okay, they won't know. I did want to bring this up before we move on. Before we end up, was it a suicide mission?
May's mission?
Yes.
They seemed kind of surprised to see it when she shows back up with like the little disc or whatever. Like oh, okay.
I mean, I don't think not in the sense that we usually use that term because they had to have assumed that like it wouldn't be the only reason to make a suicide mission if we assumed they didn't make it back. Like there was
but I mean like was it a suicide mission in the fact that like it doesn't seem like they're ever gonna let her back into the bunker. So like was it like a one-way trip?
Do you think that's because she's been out and exposed for so long that they're worried about simian flu contamination transmission or something?
Because we see her with the like the
hazmat.
There's the hazmat. Yeah.
So like did they? So people are like saying, "Oh, they May is immune." I don't think May's immune. I just think that
she's been out for too long and they're not risking that.
Exactly. I think it was a one-way trip. It was always a one-way trip.
I had not thought of that, but that makes sense because I was trying to think of why is that person in a hazmat suit, but that makes sense.
And again, that adds an extra layer to like May's desperation, May's like determination, because like who knows, maybe she doesn't know how much time she has left. Maybe she's like.
I mean, because I consider like there probably have to be some humans that just have a natural immunity to the flu. Like if we have humans that are still intelligent, because I can you test for that? Like because like William H. Macy seemed to be doing. I mean, until May kill him, like he seemed to be doing all right.
But how long was he out?
I mean, he wasn't living secluded in a hazmat suit that we know of. Like
long enough for his ankle to get broken and then to heal back up well enough that he could walk again.
Right.
But yeah, no, that interests me. But any other final thoughts before we wrap up?
I love this franchise. Can't wait to see more. Like, there's like a handful of sci-fi franchises that I'll be like, oh, well, I'm always going to at least be intrigued to see the next. Well, I was going to list Matrix, but I was like, I don't know if I want to see Wachowski list. Like, apparently that Drew Goddard thing. I don't even know that that's really happening. I think Drew Goddard went to Warner Brothers and gave them a pitch that they got excited about, and they're like, we'll do another Matrix. We'll see if that actually happens.
Only if Bugs returns. After that, if it's not, I'm not in it. I'm not into it. But anyway, I know if you guys are capable, if you want to like share your tiers, we can do that as well. Your rankings.
Yeah, let me pull up my letterbox.
I have it written down somewhere. But when it comes to like the larger franchise thing. I just think that Planet of the Apes, it's one of the few franchises that's carrying that torch of originality, right? I don't really mess with Star Wars anymore. I don't mess with Mission Impossible anymore. The fact that
I still fuck with Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board to see the final conclusion of that.
I maybe used the wrong franchise. I'm personally like, iffy on Mission Impossible, but I get why people like those ones because of the stunts. I probably should have used a better series.
Well, it's not even the stunt. I like that they're going they're kind of going full bozo sci-fi mode with the Metal Gear AI elements, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
But I get what you mean.
The Planet of the Apes thing though is mostly like workman directors and
it's not auteur driven.
Yeah.
Which people always, it's weird to see, especially on Twitter, when people find that delineation as like a mark of quality. Like if you call a director someone likes a journeyman, they're like, how dare you? I'm like, that doesn't I didn't say they weren't a great director. Like that's not a measure of quality.
As an anti-auteur, I as a film person, I could not give two shits about directors. That's not my. That isn't. I care about stars. I care about genre. Those are the things that draw me. I really could not care less about directors.
But I definitely agree, and I think that one of the strengths of the original series is that other than the first, all of them of the original series were written and co-written by one guy.
Right.
So you definitely see, like, even though like budgets went lower, things got.
There's still like a vision that carries through.
Yeah, exactly. And so
that's increasingly rare with just not just sci-fi, but any franchise. Like, there's very few where you can. I mean, Chucky has the same guy writing all those in the show. But not many franchises have like that kind of authorship through.
Yeah. And so I think that's what makes it great, in that how much you can pull from while still feeling like it deserves to be in that world. It all feels part of the ape tap. Like none of them even I'm sure maybe I'll appreciate the Burn one even more, but it wasn't like I was like, this is not Planet of the Apes. It just wasn't like, at the time I was like, I don't know if that's what I want from Planet of the Apes, but it didn't feel like disparate or like it didn't belong. It was like, this is what an Apes movie looks like. They're doing ape stuff. So does anyone else have theirs? Because here's mine, and I only in my rewatch only shifted one thing. Before, Planet of the Apes was higher than Conquest, but now it's lower than Conquest. Everything else.
They need to have separate listings for like different cut, because like it feels weird to have the because I have Conquest as number one, but I would not put the theatrical at number one. It's like, so I'm specifically my list is Conquest, Escape, original Planet of the Apes in my top three, and then I have Dawn, War, Kingdom, Beneath, Rise, Battle, and then Burns, Planet of the Apes. And I like asterisk next to the Burn. I gotta revisit that to double check what's going on there.
I like all of them, and then I appreciate half of Rise. Okay,
Well, it's hard not to think when I heard that Rise that like it was gonna be Tobey Maguire instead of Franco. I was like, oh well, I could actually buy him as
he could have pulled off that script. He could have pulled off that script.
Well, mine goes from this is starting at the bottom and then going to the top. Obviously, Tim Burton, as I've made abundantly clear. Then Battle, Escape, Beneath, Dawn, War, Conquest, Kingdom, Rise, and then the OG will always be number one for me, regardless.
Oh man, yeah, no, it's great. I know people. I'm surprised when it's like really low, or when someone says like, "Oh man, the originals aren't that good."
I don't know if it's just like being raised with them. It makes it canonical for like people like, I don't know, like if you never saw that as a kid and you watched it now, I guess you'd be like, yeah, this is is this corny? Like it's not corny to me, but I'm saying like to someone who's just,
well, I guess you need to appreciate like just that vibe of 60s, 70s sci-fi.
I love I love sci-fi from this era, so like the Andromeda strain and stuff like that, just, or even something campy, or Logan's
like
Run,
or Death Race
just
2000.
The aesthetic,
just that vibe
they were working with is like
just that
very. I vibe with it.
What about you, Tony? How did you go?
Okay, I got it pulled up here. So I would go number one, Escape. Then 2, Dawn. 3, Conquest, original ending, of course. 4, Planet of the Apes, the original. Then 5, War. and then 6 Beneath, and then right after Beneath, I'm going to put 7 as Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That's where it sits for me. 8 would be Rise of the Planet of the Apes. 9 would be Battle for the Planet of the Apes. And then 10 would be Tim Burton. No offense, Tim Burton. But when it comes to the ranking itself, everything other than Tim Burton, I would say, is at least good. And in the time since I revisited these movies in preparation for this, honestly, Beneath the Planet of the Apes like raised the highest.
Yeah,
it's really that end, the like last act that is so thrilling to me. Like, James Narcissus,
it's just inventive.
It's kind of boring, but like
James Narcissus.
Once you get underground, you're cooking.
I kind of view Beneath as like the Metal Gear Solid 2 of the series, like the way that they swap out the protagonist. It's just like,
Yeah, but at least Raiden looks just I can tell the difference. Like they're not trying to make him look like Snake,
But they make him look like Heston, but then Heston's also in the film, so then there's like a commentary on like one version of the same character being good versus evil and their battle with one another, and then the ending. Anyway,
that's giving him too much credit.
I was gonna say, like, that sounds interesting. I don't know if that was intentionally in the part. Like, I just don't think the Brent, is that the name of?
Yes, Brent.
I don't think he's fleshed out enough for us to have a contrast.
He's supposed to look handsome, which he does. Like, I actually think he's incredible.
How dare
he's handsome. It's fine, but like,
how dare Brent kiss Nova? How dare he? Okay,
I think that he is purposefully a two-dimensional character, because when we get to the ending, he becomes a surrogate villain. He's never meant to have any kind of interiority. In fact, we're watching the opening of Beneath the Planet of the Apes through Nova's perspective for most of the movie.
Yeah,
he's kind of just like, there.
Nova's so interesting in that.
Nova is interesting. I mean, we've already done 3 out of. I don't know if we'll start unpacking the Nova stuff, but it is. I'm interested to see once we get to humanity fully being that of like unintelligent, unable to communicate, because it's like it's loaded imagery, but then adding an interloper, intelligent human like Taylor to that dynamic, just it does a lot. And so like, I think that's the original movies get a lot out of that dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Again, like, and I know Caesar and arguably Koba are the only characters that the series has remade directly. I do want a Cornelius and Zira. I do want them. I don't care if like, why did you have names like Anaya and Suna and then Selena Cornelius again? I want that. I don't care if it makes no sense. Bring them back. Okay, a story can't end by being shot in the gutter. Okay.
You say that, and then the monkey paws curl, and then some execs like, so we're gonna do digitally insert Roddy McDowell into these movies.
Young hero television show.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that wraps it up mostly. So I'm just gonna say thank you so much for joining me. And thank you, Doug. Here is your, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
No,
page.
Never call it X. It's Twitter.
Twitter page.
At your cop.
Exactly. At Duggernaut_2. Give him a follow, give him a like, subscribe, all of that. Great time. I love all of your posts. Honestly, it's always great talking to you on there. And let's see here. TJ, here is yours. At TJ West 3. And again, I think that it's been great. I noticed that you've loved Planet Apes for a while, so it's been great talking about that with you. As more news comes in, hope to discuss that with you. Okay, and I can't wait to read your write up on the mutants that you've said that you're going to be doing. I think that they're a fantastic piece of the franchise.
Yeah, I want to read that. That sounds good.
And I hope that this one ends with like the guys in the bunkers, their skin falling off, because it needs to happen.
we gotta go there. We gotta do it.
If it doesn't happen, what's the point?
We have to go back.
I'm gonna pick it outside of 20th Century Studios. I'm just like, you didn't deliver on the mutants.
And here's at poor old Rolo Tony. Let's see, 5,500 followers. That's 500 more than like last week. Jeez. Like I remember, like you're like, oh man, 5,000. No,
Man, seeing this pin
Who's keeping
tweet
track?
is making me want to go rewatch, because the ones I've seen of that was at the 80s when Forrest Whitaker hosted
90.
the tournament.
Oh, no, that's
2002.
There's
Yeah.
some really good ones. There's like direct sequels to original
Yes, all of them are good.
Sterling era episodes, and they're like good.
All of them are good.
They're good, but then there's like I have big problems with this series. I think that like
I've only seen the ones I've seen are good, at least. I don't know.
Like
I
10
can't speak for them.
episodes. Okay.
Yeah.
I know we're wrapping up, so I don't want to like jump into things. I will say like with this series, it was made right after 9/11, and they try to do like reduxes of old episodes through that prism, right?
And that's why it's great. Yeah, we know.
Yes, you're right. There's really interesting things to glean from that, right? Like contextually speaking. Anyways, I'm taking away from the outro. Keep going.
No problem. Anyway, Azoth the Avenger is a friend of mine. Is a great episode. Okay, 10 out of 10. Anyway,
I'm gonna watch that as soon as we go. That looks good.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. If there's anything you want to give a shout out to before we end off, please do so.
Well, I mean, I probably will be starting a movie podcast soon, but like we don't have format or name figured out. So TBD. Check my Twitter. There'll be announcements.
Sweet. How about you, Rilla?
Let's see. Definitely want to get that Twilight Zone one off the ground now that we were talking about it. But honestly, I want to give a shout out to a YouTube channel I don't run, Ape Nation on YouTube. They're specifically a Planet of the Apes YouTube channel that just started because they were excited about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I watched a couple of their videos. It doesn't have the greatest production values, I guess you would say. His editing's a little rough.
I've heard this guy.
He interviewed Wes Ball. He's very engaged with the Planet of the Apes franchise. I liked his energy. And
how dare he?
Elvis is ready to go to war.
0 out of 10. I'll be in his comments right now. Okay.
Yeah, what we're talking about today. Here's another rabbit hole to jump down.
Yeah. How about you, TJ?
You can check out my Substack newsletter. It's just called Omnivorous because it's kind of eclectic. So I do a little bit of there's personal essays. There's some fiction, obviously Planet of the Apes stuff, fantasy, sci-fi, like Kronos eating his children. Like
love that. Love seeing Koba on a horse.
Yeah, so you get a sense of what I do a little bit of everything. It's a daily newsletter, so I would love anyone to sign up because I love writing. So
no spoilers. I'm not clicking on that. Okay, read it for yourselves.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me, and hope we can do this again when the next one comes out in 5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And
or we'll all watch the cartoon, and between being bored, we'll compare notes.
Hey, if you guys want to watch the cartoon and we
there's
do
gotta be like some, even if I'm not like riveted, like I'm like there's gotta be something in there.
It's
right?
so interesting. It's so much more closer to the book in a lot of ways.
Well, now I want to. I just need to fill in my 8 gaps, like the book, the cartoon, the first show. Like, yeah.
Yeah, the cartoon's only 13 episodes. I'll watch it if you guys are down for discussing the cartoon, like in a later date in a month or two. Let's set it up, okay?
I'm into that. They're on YouTube, right?
They're all on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So to be continued. Thank you for listening and have a great time, man.
Yeah.
See ya.
Have a good night, everyone. Go away.
So
Go away.